Can you hear me?
Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. We had a big old snafu on the audio. Are you not hearing the intro either?
I didn't hear a thing. Nope.
So, we got a problem, boys and girls. Alright, let me do this. How did I fix this the other day? Apparently, what I did the other day, it's probably because of that crazy thing that happened yesterday. So, we're recording live right now. Hello, everyone who's listening to this after the fact. We're having difficulties kicking the stream over from live radio to the live financial part of the radio, so bear with us. And okay, I'm going to take myself out of, and I'm going to come back in.
Okay.
Don't think that'll fix the problem, but
Just let me know if you need me to do anything.
This is, those of you listening after the fact, this is behind the scenes radio. You're getting a peek behind the curtain. Alright, I'm going to re-enter on Go 2. I forgot to even fire up. Oh, now it's asking for, okay, that's good. Maybe. What I'm going to do is I'm going to Hey, good afternoon, folks. Welcome back. Yesterday we got hit with the blue screen of death, and so today I don't know what's going to happen, but the computer that didn't, the server didn't crash yesterday, but it's acting up today. So those of you that typically are able to listen to just the audio stream, it looks like we've got audio stream. Oh, and I just got booted out. No, I didn't. Alright, so we're going to skip all the intros. We're going to skip all the niceties. Let me open the chat box in... Alright. Dwayne, we can see you on the screen instead of the charts. Do you always trade with a glass of wine in each hand? Ah, that's funny. Good sound, and I can see your 30-minute chart. Okay. But John, you couldn't hear the intro play, correct? No intro. Okay. All right. So I got to figure out what's going on there. Can you still hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I got to get kicked in to the people over on the YouTube, because I've been pounding what they call the social media about our ability to be in two places at one time. I know it's freaky, but it's true. Alright, I gotta click there, go into the YouTube, and it should say broadcasting live. It does. I click it, Bang. Open the chat room. Bang. Okay. All right. It's not like it's supposed to be, folks, but it's how we're going to have to roll today. All right. Let me jump in here and give you the numbers real quick. We'll pass it off to Mike so that he doesn't have to bask in our misery. And the markets are rocking, so we're pretty happy about that. Let me just tell you. Now, Michael, I don't know if I told you this, but last Friday marked the longest streak that the S&P had not climbed or dropped on a closing basis more than 0.5% since 1995.
Yeah, it was 13 days or something, wasn't it?
Yep. We snapped it Monday, and then we took a little nap yesterday, rest up, But boy, today are we back. Look at this chart I got up, guys. Now, these are still last week's zones because I can't show this week's zones to the general public until tomorrow, Thursday, which I'll gladly do. But last week, this wasn't the highest weekly zone last week, but it was certainly a zone. And we've gone zone to zone to zone. Now, this is a trend down day. Leg and a retrace, and a leg and a retrace, and a leg and a retrace. We'll talk about all of that and more. Let me just give you the numbers real quick. Here in the U.S., to put so that when Michael comes in, this gives you some context to the whole thing. The Dow is currently down 260 points. That's 1.25%. Now, some people in the audience might be confused and go, man, that dude sounds like he's happy that the Dow's down 260 points. Bro, I'm ecstatic because we're futures traders. We're not married to any stocks, and if the market runs up 100 points or down 100 points, we're there to cash our paycheck, okay? Our problem is when the market goes flat, like that 13-day period. Ooh, we start polishing up the resume. But thank God the music is playing once again. NASDAQ is down 102 points. That's 1.5%. S&P 500 is down 27 points. That's a little over 1%. The Russell 2000 is down 27 points. That is 2%. Now, in the commodity basket, we have crude oil up 59 cents. We had inventories today. We're trading 49.25 last. And then, if we drop down to the Asian markets, Nikkei closed up 104 points, 0.5%. Shanghai closed up 8 points, and down 8 points. Nikkei down, Shanghai down, and the Hang Seng down 42 points. Last but not least, let's take a look at Europe. It's blood red there. FTSE down 18 points. DAX down 172. That's well over 1%. And the CAC dropped 88 points, and that's down over 1.5%. And guess who's getting blamed for it all? I'll give you one guess, and it's a 5-letter word. Go ahead, Michael.
Trump.
Yeah, man, that guy. He's just messing everything up, huh? This
Giving us
media.
volatility finally.
This media. Every time he breaks wind, some left-wing reporter has got to turn it into a conspiracy theory. I want to throttle somebody, but I don't know who, and it would be unchristian to throttle anybody, so I just have to stay behind this mic and rant and rave.
I don't watch news. If it doesn't make me laugh, I'm not going to watch it.
Have you watched that show that's a takeoff on Walmart?
No.
It's called, what's it called? Superstore, I think is the name of the show, but the actual store in the show Superstore is Cloud9, I think. And if I got any of that wrong, folks, it's really not that funny. It's not, I mean, one of the most popular shows on TV right now is Big Bang Theory. Those guys are all they're making like $1 million an episode, having the time of their life. And Sheldon, he's got some work doing commercials for Intel. He's making a pretty penny off that. They're living the good life, let me tell you. My wife absolutely hates that show.
Really? I watched the season finale last night.
Oh, whoa!
I recorded it last week.
Oh well, yeah. I watched it last week. I didn't realize that was the season finale, though.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, buddy.
And other repeats.
Okay, I know that the summer doldrums. But there's a couple of shows that come on during the summer just to take up, because nature abhors a vacuum, and I don't mean Kirby or Eureka. The show is America's Got Talent. Another, sometimes I come to TV, my wife's a hater. I mean, in real life, she's pretty nice, but put her behind that TV screen, she wants Quantico, she wants NCIS, she wants, if it's crime and drama or blood and gore, she'll take it. It's cloak and dagger. But you want to laugh? That's just stupid. And anyway, I was going to make a point. I was working my way up to something. Got any hints?
You were talking about your wife. We were talking about shows that make us laugh. You were talking about that TV show, the new one with the store in it.
Yeah, that's not that funny. And there's a lot of sexual innuendo in poor taste. But there was something else. The America's Got Talent with Howie Mandel, and I don't know who else is going to be judging this season. I heard that Howard Stern, that last season was his last season. Now, I have never liked Howard Stern. In fact, back in 1996, when we launched our last company, and my wife ran my shipping department, I would walk by the shipping department, and she'd have that jack leg cranked wide open for her and her employees. And I would stick my head and I would go, "How do you listen to that clown?" And she's like, "Ha, he's funny." Well, she sure changed. She got a little Jesus in her, and boom, suddenly no Howard Stern. Anyway, now every time I go by, after that, it was every time I went by, it was Joyce Meyer preaching. So anyway, when Howard Stern came on the TV show America's Got Talent, no Babalu, no ugly jokes, he became quite a likable human being. Now, it may be that he woke up one day, looked in the mirror, and recognized his own mortality and said, I better maybe try to become a better human being, because he was one of the kindest judges on that show, insightful. He's a very smart man. He is a snappy dresser. His mane is not quite as luxurious as mine, but the man does have a shock of hair, let me tell you. So, and Howie, with his germophobia, as he's running down the steps to the judge's booth, all the audiences are trying to reach out and touch him and shake his hand, and he's like dodging like a football player to make sure nobody actually touches him, because that freaks him out. All right, save me. Come do the recap, please. The White House has said that Comey's accusations are not based on facts. Okay, thank you for that. Do you ever watch Shark Tank? Oh, yes. Not only do I watch it every Friday night when the new episode comes on, but when I'm sitting doing the concierge trade alerts, I watch the reruns because they happen to be on most days at that time. So it's kind of like MASH. I've got all the lines memorized practically. So Blue Bloods already had their season finale. That is Tom Selleck's best role ever. I did notice in the season finale, as they were having the family dinner, as they always do on Sunday after church, I think he's getting that thing that sometimes older people get where the head kind of shakes just a little bit. I don't know that it's Parkinson's or anything like that.
Yeah, Parkinson's.
I don't know if that's, I haven't read it in the Inquirer yet, so I don't know if it's true. But it was very, very hard to detect. But Michael J. Fox, he hid his illness for quite some time before he, couldn't hide it anymore. And then he became very vocal, which was a very brave thing for him to do. And he even went on to have a short-lived but very popular television show when his disease was in, full swing. And that was Parkinson's, was it not?
It was.
It was,
It
yeah.
was indeed.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, folks. Every day that we wake up in good health, in our right mind. I remember my grandmother telling me this as a kid. Son, every morning you wake up in good health and in your right mind, you need to get on your knees and thank Jesus. And it's like, I'm not familiar with his work kind of thing back then. But she's right, and I do. I talked to her Sunday Mother's Day. And she, 92, on top of the world. How you doing, Granny? Oh, son, I am doing great. I never heard that woman say a bad thing about anybody. Even my grandfather, when he was verbally abusing her, she would be taking off his shoes and his socks, and I was sitting there on the couch going, is she crazy? Can she not hear what he's saying to her? Call her a fat cow and a pig. I'm like, oh, honey, you don't mean that. I know you love me. And then she'd go in and make his dinner. I'm like, oh, my God. But I was taught at a young age what the kind of love, oh, God, I'm having a moment. Unconditional love. She taught me what unconditional love was. That's what Jesus took to the cross. All right, Michael, I can see your charts. I'll shut up and hit mute. You're on your own.
Here we go.
Take it away.
All right. Here we go. Good afternoon, Pete. And, all right. Here we go. Like I just said. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Wednesday, the 17th day of May, 2017. All right. If you have not taken a free trial with us at CFRN and you want to take a free trial with us, we've made it pretty easy for you now. You just got to go to the homepage here at CFRN.net. Right up here at the top, as soon as you open the page up, you'll have a place to put in your email, your name, and then just click there. Once you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link. Okay. Once you click that confirmation link, then you will get you'll get all the information that you need to get into the free trial. Okay. All the information that you need, that any person would need to take the free trial with us. All right. Now we're going to do the spreadsheet. It's this one. If you're going to look at the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the very bottom. Why is it on 4/28? It's the wrong day. Here we go. Today is the 17th. Okay, today we made 5 ticks in the euro. We lost 6 in the YM today. We made 1 in crude and 18 in gold. So 191.25 on the morning. Today it took 29 minutes and 2 trades to get to the goal for the day, and at that point we were up. At that point we were up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 11 today. So on the month now, we're up 1,260 over 13 days, averaging 96 a day. That's a really low number for us. We're going to get that up over the next, rest of the week, hopefully. If we keep up this volatility, we'll get that up with no problem whatsoever. On the year now, 13,971. That's over 93 days, averaging 150 per day. Okay. Now we'll get into what we did today. Okay. Here is the gold. The pre-market. Look at this nice movement in the gold. Anyway, by the time the cycle was doing a reset here, and we got our first opportunity here on gold. We picked up 9 ticks. This is where we actually got the goal for the day. Before that, we had one trade on crude, and we picked up 1 tick on crude. So this is where we got the goal for the day on the gold. We missed that follow-up one right there. We did get this one right here. That put us at, that was 5 ticks, put us at plus 14. Then we stopped out here, -8. That put us back down to +6. Then we got 3 there to go to +9. Then 5 there to go to 14. We missed that one. Picked up 4 there to go to +18, and we missed that one. During the break, right here, I gotta draw a trend line. I don't think that's right. Yeah, during the break, it would have been way down here. Okay, I probably wouldn't have done anything with that. And one little trade right here that happened while Dwayne was talking. Okay, and that was it. We ended up with +18 on gold. All right, on the euro, we had a break even right there and a +5 right there. We missed the momentum trade there, and we missed the momentum trade there. Let's see what happened during the break. Well, it had some nice swings here during the break. If you're doing 137s and let's see, 137s and 164s, yeah, just 137 and inverted 137s, and you could have gotten into some of these swings here. But other than that, you wouldn't have gotten into it. Crude oil. We had crude inventories today. We only took this one spot right here on crude. We got 1 tick on it. But I had said, you see this level I drew down here? I had said, I had drawn it from back here, right back here, and that was yesterday afternoon. I had said, look for crude to get down there when the crude inventory numbers come out. And, well, they did. They got right down to there. And they bounced right out of there. You see. Hang on. There. See, when the crude inventories number came out, they just got right in that little range I drew and took off from there. What that range is the range that it was in yesterday when the API numbers came out. Okay. YM. What do we do on the YM? A couple. Okay, on the YM, the first one we did on the YM was right here. We stopped out, -8 ticks. Then the next one we did, we missed that one and that one, and we got 2 ticks profit right there to put us at -6. We missed that one, and let's see here. I don't know where the ES is with regard to zones here, so I'm just gonna say there was nothing in that leg, nothing there, nothing in here. There was a long right there that really didn't go anywhere. And there really wasn't much here during the break on the YM. The ES now. The ES started out in here. I highlighted this. It went right up into the zone. And then it came down off of that zone. I highlighted that short right there, and it went right down into the zone. And after it dropped through the zone, there was a short there that I had highlighted. A long over here that would have gone to break even on the close above the MA1 right there. And that's about it. That is about it, guys. Really didn't have anything during the break on the ES. Okay. The NQ, I'll show you the NQ. The NQ was bouncing all over the place this morning. You know, when the room first opened up, it was just jumping all over the place. And with the ES traveling the way that it did today, the NQ certainly did too. Look at that movement on the NQ. Now the thing is, if the ES is in a zone or approaching a zone, then you're not going to do anything with the NQ anyway. But I did highlight this here, and then I think I switched over to the YM because the NQ was just jumping around too much. But dang. Looks like if you got the direction right on that, like whatever the one trade a day was, if you got the direction right on that, then you would have made some money on the NQ today. Let's see, why is the YM so big? Here. Okay, so that's it. That's it. Let me bring this back up. Okay, our morning was like this. We had 5 on the euro, -6 on the YM, +1 on crude, +18 on gold. That totals up to 191.25. Took 29 minutes and 2 trades to get $200 a contract today, and total of 11 trades. Okay, so 1260 on the month. That's gross over 13 days, averaging 96 per day. And on the year now, 13,971 over 93 days, averaging 150 per day. Okay. If you have not taken a free trial with us, just go to the homepage here at CFRN.net. And over here where it says want to learn how to trade, put in your email, put in your name, and click there. Once you click there, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link. Okay. If you don't click the confirmation link, you will not get the free trial. Bye, Mike. Okay, that's probably somebody being patched in. Yes, it is somebody being patched in. Okay, with that, I can pass it back out to Fabulous Phoenix, Arizona. Or actually, let me see, can I? No, you gotta pull it, Dwayne.
I'm back.
Okay, you gotta pull it, and Leslie's online with our guests, I think.
Oh, is John here?
I'm here. Yeah, hi.
Yep.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
Let me get the screens back over.
Okay.
Michael, you're going to get a phone call in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Just hear the guy out. I emailed you about this last night, but he's going to explain it to you in detail.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll check it out.
All right, buddy. If you get a chance, check emails from me last night, and it's a certificate. You'll see it.
Yep, I got it right here.
Okay. He's
Okay.
going to talk to you 5-10 minutes. I just got off the phone with him. I've known this guy for many, many years. I used to use him before CFRN. So you and I will talk about it later.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right.
Sounds.
John, welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks. Glad to be here on such a kind of dramatic day.
Yeah.
First, just
Nice.
before, well, as you know, I think, look, I did say pretty strongly that I was expecting an accelerating run up in the gold was really what I was kind of expecting, and that's what we're getting right now. And I also said that the metals would catch up with the stocks because the stocks ran ahead of the gold price. And
Those were practically your exact words. So
thanks, and we did an outstanding
Good job.
pretty outstanding. Thank you. You should be double ringing because of all the great trades you've got on right now since last night.
well, we did have a good night. That's for sure.
Look, what I told you, the people don't get it. It's very hard to pick the top of the market, but we pretty much picked it yesterday. I did say to sell the Nvidia if it dropped $1 off the price, off the highs, and even though it kind of ran up towards the close, it opened down a bit this morning. It rallied to 134.80. We got a sell signal on it. It went down to 130. We actually got a buy signal there, and it's bounced a bit. But I'm a little bit worried about this market unless we start rallying here into the afternoon. If we roll over and start going lower, there's a danger we might get a bit of a flash crash type thing this afternoon.
We are poised for a
where it
leg
could
down
start-
on the S&P. That's for sure.
Exactly. Could unravel pretty fast. And if that happens, there'll probably be another big move in the metals. What I'm particularly pleased about, I within the next week or two, I'll have most of this preparatory work done. But what I'm really excited about is I've managed to kind of find a common denominator amongst pretty much all markets where I get these fail-safe buys or sells, and no matter how bad the market looks, such as the way the beans looked a few days ago when they were near the lows, and I did say the wheat, I said the wheat was likely putting in a bottom a few days ago, and a lot of times the market doesn't give itself away too easily, and even when we were making the lows on gold, it didn't look as if we were going to rally much, but I think we're in a possible third wave to the upside, and if the nugget keeps going here, and if this move develops into something stronger than even where we are today, I'm putting a target of about 250 on the nugget. I think considering we
And what's it trading at now?
38.
38, and you're putting a target of, did you say 250?
I am, yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's a strong recommendation.
Well, certainly, I said the other day 70 to 80, but I think it has the potential to go much higher. If we were to go up a couple $100 in gold later this year, we'd certainly probably go back over 100, maybe even 150 towards 200. So, because remember, a lot of these stocks are beaten down in the Gulf, but this is provided that look, we're on a possible double 1-2 type of breakout with the gold, and we're possibly in a third wave now to the upside. And all I'm going to do, as far as I'm concerned, look, if it gives me a sell signal, I'm going to sell it, and if it gives me a buy signal, I'm going to buy it. And right now, we're still on a buy on everything. We don't have a sell signal yet. We were on a buy on a lot of the stocks, and the Nasdaq stocks yesterday. I noticed that some of them started turning before the close. The TTD, FireEye turned down, Twitter turned down, Priceline already dropped. It's breaking down lower this morning. Netflix was turning down. Amazon turned down last night. Facebook turned down. The only stock that didn't really turn was Google. So there was, and basically, so I got to, just to tell you how good this stuff is, I basically got a sell signal on all the things late yesterday afternoon. And as you know, and we got a continuing buy signal. We've basically been on a buy signal with a couple of interruptions ever since the lows on the gold at 12.15, and we've been on a continuous buy signal on the nugget since 27, which is a remarkable kind of performance so far. But look, this could be just here's what I would say. If we cut these losses, if we start rallying back, and this is just what we call it, kind of a flash in the pan type thing, or a storm in a teacup, and it sort of blows over in a day or two.
Tempest, that's what you used to call it.
Tempest in a teapot, right? Tempest in a teapot. So if it sort of blows over, I actually think the market could actually, this is sort of a little bit of a pause, and the next run to the upside could be very dramatic, and could potentially, we could go parabolic in the next couple of months, assuming that everything gets worked out, that this all this nonsense sort of ceases, and if Trump gets some good news, if we get continuing to get good economic news, the market will ultimately respond to that. Especially if we get a blowout employment report. If we got something over 300,000 jobs, that would be very, very impressive, and it could spur a very strong rally into the summer. So I'm still not ruling out another rally after this pause, after this pullback, no matter, even if it's quite a shakeout. Obviously, if we do cut the losses and we start going back up, the gold probably is going to give us a sell signal, and we're probably going to get a pullback of some sort. Anyhow, look, I want to say, a lot of you may not have picked up this news, but in the last, there were two explanations about how these emails got to WikiLeaks.
Okay.
One was, and they kind of gel together. One was a disgruntled DNC employee was either upset about the Bernie Sanders ripoff by the DNC or other things going on in the DNC, and decided to get the emails and supposedly handed them over in the park to a former British ambassador who took them to WikiLeaks in Europe. The other explanation is this guy who was working for the DNC. Seth Rich, I think is his name, was sent 44,125 emails to WikiLeaks about 10 days before he was shot dead in a very safe neighborhood in Washington that hasn't had a murderer since like in a decade. And under very suspicious circumstances, and it was all covered up because nobody, there's a lot of fishy stuff going on with this investigation. Anyway, it's kind of come to a head, and it's starting to get out into the news media. And in a way, this whole Russian thing could blow up in a very embarrassing way, because if it is look, you've got this guy over in London, Julian Assange, who is potentially could get indicted, or it could be charged, or he could be locked up, and so he has a certain amount
now,
of
he's
leverage.
in Ecuador right now, correct?
No, he's in the Ecuadorian embassy.
Okay, the Ecuadorian embassy in London?
London, right.
In London, okay.
He's been there for 4 or 5 years now. But, in spite, it beats me. I don't understand why he leaked this stuff, from the CIA recently. That was kind of a stupid thing to do, since he's trying to, since he had a more favorable government, put it this way, in the Trump administration than perhaps Obama, obviously, right? And probably could have cut a deal of some sort, which might have enabled him to, live without fear in the future. But, look, Obama gave the guy who just got out of jail today, the Chelsea, or the guy who originally sent all the documents to WikiLeaks, who was sentenced to about 28 or 38 years, and he's getting out early, after 7 years. She's getting out now because he's changed sex. But anyhow, that's one. That was an Obama sort of sympathy, if you like, with WikiLeaks. Very complicated, because in one sense, because of the Hillary issue, WikiLeaks is public enemy number one, and then was potentially friendly to the Obama administration until they outed the CIA and the NSA. So God knows why they did that. But notwithstanding, if WikiLeaks can prove that the emails, and he's already said that didn't come from any state sponsor. Now, they don't reveal their sources. The one thing about WikiLeaks is in 11 years of operation, they've never revealed the source. Well, it may be, he may have to change his tune on that, because if he reveals his source and it's not the Russians, and based on what he's already said, it's not the Russians, this whole thing could really blow up in a huge way and be very favorable to Trump ultimately, because it's going to show what a bunch of scumbags these Democrats are, and what a bunch of liars, and how this whole thing was concocted. And not only that, it makes Obama look like absolutely the biggest fool on the planet for putting the sanctions on Russia, by believing, again, all these rotten intelligence agencies who've been providing, trumped up information. It's all garbage. It's completely non-existent, and most people already know that. But this would be a huge, this thing, that would be the first thing. And then the second thing, which I said yesterday, which they're trying to use the Russia issue and all this stuff with Trump recently to cast a shadow, or to hide the real problem, which is the surveillance that's been going on of people like senators and most of the guys who were running for president were all surveilled, it looks like. And all the mischief that Obama's been up to, including having this guy, this convicted felon who came to the White House 387 times and who instigated the violence of the Trump rallies. I mean, all of this is impeachable offense. I mean, it's 10 times worse, 100 times worse than what Trump, has allegedly done in the last week or two, or the last since he started.
Are these protesters still being paid? I mean, if somebody could get some evidence that they're actually, drawing a paycheck to stand out there and act like idiots, I mean, I think that would carry some weight with, well, not with the media, of course, because every time Trump breaks wind, they turn it into a conspiracy theory with ties to Russia.
Well, I think that look, there's no doubt this guy was outed, and there's a lot of evidence on him. So, but I'm shocked that nobody's brought it up, because when you dovetail that in with Trump's tweets about being surveilled, it all makes sense, because it's just as I said before, it's rotten to the core, stinks to high heaven, and they were all over this. I mean, they were trying to steal the election no matter what. They stole they were behind Hillary to steal the election, and they weren't able to pull it off in spite of everything. So that's what they're really mad about. And because Trump beat him fair and square, and it wasn't because of the Russians. Definitely, there's not a single person in the United States who voted for Trump that I was going to tell you the Russians made him do it. I mean, it's so ridiculous to even think that. Most of the people cast their votes for Trump because they wanted change, and they certainly wanted a better tax system and a lower taxes and more prosperity. That's what they want, and they wanted change, and they were sick to death of the rottenness and all this. I mean, look, all the skullduggery that's been going on with the Justice Department that was rotten to the core. I mean, obviously the CIA, the FBI, somebody in the FBI has been leaking this stuff because Comey's been dragging his feet. They should have. Most of the CIA guys who are worth listening to have said it would take no more than 2 weeks to out all the leaks, to find out who's been leaking, and nobody's doing anything about it. So it's a massive cover-up. It's just unbelievable. But it looks like if a guy lost his life over the WikiLeaks thing, and he was the guy who actually got the emails to WikiLeaks. I mean, it makes the Democrats look so stupid. I don't think they'll ever recover from it. It's going to be the biggest black eye. It makes the United States look pathetic on the world stage, to be honest with you. And I think the Russians are kind of gobsmacked by the whole thing. They just can't believe that this is all going on. And I mean, this is their whole thing. Oh, they're practically saying Russia invaded the U.S. They did this and they did that, and it wasn't the Russians who did the French thing. It was somebody else. But they're trying to blame the French election on the Russians as well. I mean, it's just unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. I mean, to think that grown-up people are doing this, supposedly intelligent people, their heads are so screwed up. It's just incredible to even witness all this stuff going on. It's absolutely amazing.
I agree.
So anyway, look.
Mike wanted me to share this with you, John. Gold retreated back to a 50% retracement from the last swing high and low on the daily. Also, so that would be what we refer to, folks, as the last leg. Also, we may close back above the major trend line that started back from 1215. Or is it a Trader Vic?
No, look.
It could be a Trader Vic. I'll look at that chart in a little bit here, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, the
Go
bad
ahead.
news today. The bad news is I'm getting a sell signal on some of this stuff right now. On the metals. Look. I know it's not a confirmed sell signal, but I'm getting a pullback signal.
Well, yeah. I mean, the way we've run up, a pullback I think would be a little healthy.
Yeah. I mean, so it fits with the idea of the 50% thing.
Yeah. I'm drawing it out on the screen right now for folks. Now, the last leg on the daily, we actually blew through the 62. If we go with the bigger picture, going back to December 15th and paint it that way, which is the two ways I teach you to do it, then what Mike said is absolutely correct. We tagged, we came within a tick or two of that 50% retracement. So please go ahead.
So anyway, look, if we hold in around here and start going higher in the metals again, then we're still on track, on a good track. But we've had a pretty spectacular move so far.
Oh yeah,
so
we had our alert last night on gold was to buy. Wait for it. Was to buy 1246, and so basically, if you got out at the exact swing high, which we never do, that's $1,400 per contract. Since I sent you that email last night.
Well done.
That will pay for your quarterly subscription. That one move right there will pay for your quarterly subscription to the alerts. So give it some thought. Just saying. Same. What is that? Shameless self-promotion. There we go.
right, and deservedly.
Well, thank you.
Deserved. Yeah. Okay, look, listen, I gotta run.
Okay, I know you got that important call. Listen, thanks so much for popping in, and we'll talk to you later today. If you got some news for me this afternoon, call me. Otherwise, I'll see you in the morning.
Okay. By the way, I think I mentioned I thought the coffee was going to turn up yesterday. It has, and the cocoa has also continued higher. So that's quite unusual to have the two of them going up together. And the sugar is moving up as well. So the softs. This is quite a good sign for the metals. Actually, the fact that these things are moving up. And I would definitely be a buyer of the grains on strength now.
Okay. Got it. Thank you, John.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.
Have a great day.
You too.
Guys, take a look at this. Right here. Now. Resistance. Finally break through. No support. Just kind of slice right through it. I got a sneaking feeling that's going to turn into resistance. And we're going to see a leg either to there. Now, you see this overlap. When I did the pull of the whole picture, as Mike B in the audience suggested, that put this green 38% retracement on the screen. When I did just the last leg from here to here, that put the red 62% retracement. Now, when you have overlap like this, 38 and 62, guess what? If price will pull back, if the market is courteous enough to allow you to buy in the $23, $24, $25 range, consider it a gift, because after that retracement, that's when I think we go back to test the highs up around 1300. Now, that's just an off-the-cuff analysis, and it is 1 p.m. Eastern, and I would like to welcome our very special co-host that we have with us each and every Wednesday, Mr. Wayne Jett. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dwayne. Nice to be here with you.
And folks, I'm going to put up on the screen here for just a minute Wayne's website so that after the show today, you can drop over and pay him a visit. It is classiccapital.com. And Wayne has written quite a bit on his site, a number of essays, but he has also written a spellbinder of a book, The Fruits of Graft, Great Depressions, Then and Now. You can pick up a copy from his website. You can pick up a copy over at Amazon. Don't care where you pick it up, just pick it up. Because I promise you, once you start reading it, you won't stop till you finish it. So, Wayne, how's your week been?
Very fine, thank you, Dwayne, and very nice of you to say those kind remarks.
Yeah,
And,
well, you know what? The truth never changes, brother.
Well, I don't think you're overstating the case. I humbly submit. I indicate in the preface that if you read the first chapter, which is basically the principles of classical economic theory, that you'll never again be in the position of being hogtied or confused by the Keynesian economists that run our monetary and economic system. And hopefully, I think the more people who understand classical economic theory, they'll insist that the country go back on that, and we might even have a chance of doing that, especially with the catastrophe that is almost certainly looming for the economy with regard to our current monetary and federal debt situation.
Did you get a chance to listen to, I sent you an email late last night. I don't know if you got it or not, but I suggested that you listen to hour 2 of yesterday's show. Have you had a chance to do that yet?
I did do that. And
boy, I'm telling you what, some of the words that came out of his mouth, I was like, wait a minute now, is this Craig or is this Wayne Jett? Boy, you guys really, and the guy that's coming tomorrow, David Bradshaw from myideafactory.net, his background's in theology, and I took a look at his blog, and boy, I think we're going to have a great time tomorrow as well as today, as well as we did yesterday. The only problem yesterday was as I was wrapping up the show and recapping the alerts, I got the blue screen of death up on the big screen, and I had to end the show. Well, the show ended me. The good news is I called my computer guy. He just bought a new house. He's in the middle of moving, and you know, he's a young guy and he's very excited. He has a family. It's his first home. And he said, Dwayne, just try rebooting it, see if it'll reboot. And I got it, it rebooted. He said, all right, I promise you, as soon as I get the last stick of furniture moved, I'm going to remote into your computer. We're going to find the problem. And if you can't find it, I have found online a custom-built rig very similar to what I have, even a little better. And I'm going to just swap those babies right out. I'm not going to waste any time, not going to lose any time. So anyway, that's the story behind the story. Go ahead.
Terrific. Well, thank you. And listening to the discussion yesterday with Craig,
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that you call his attention to my website and book.
I did.
And I listened with great interest to a number of things he had to say. I would call attention to a couple of items that caught my attention particularly, and okay. I suspect you were all ears as well in regard to the confiscation of gold.
Yes.
In 1933 and the devaluation of the dollar in January of 34. In other words, as soon as the gold was in the possession of the government,
mm-hmm.
Having been bought supposedly at $20.67 an ounce, it was then within a month changed so that any purchase of gold would be at $35 an ounce. So in large part,
well, But when I almost
Well,
fell out of my chair is when he said, well, Dwayne, the price of gold is the same as it's always been. It's just this fiat currency that keeps flip-flopping around. And I mean, those were words like right out of your mouth. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
There's one specific word that wouldn't be right out of my mouth, and it might be just a misspeaking.
Okay.
It's not the price of gold that doesn't change.
The value.
It's the value. The value of gold.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the all important
Very
thing.
good. Okay.
And what does change in value is the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
By ripping up and down the charts.
Well, Canadians right now have to pay like $1,700 an ounce in Canadian dollars, whereas so depending upon what country you're in or what currency you're buying your gold with, gosh, it's hard to figure out what is gold worth. I even wrote an article the other night about gold and about the spider and about the S&P futures. That's out on iTunes for anybody that wants to go. Or actually, no, it's on the blog at CFRN.net. But go ahead, Wayne.
Well, in regard to that circumstance with gold jumping around, and what is the price now, regardless of what currency you're in, what is the price, not the value?
Yes. Okay.
The circumstance presently is that, as we've mentioned before, or discussed at some length, in fact, the price is artificially suppressed, and it's done in large part at the behest of the U.S. government, certainly at the behest of the Federal Reserve, and it is done by, number one, authorizing a paper market in gold that deals with futures contracts and permits those futures contracts to be entered into as if they were going to, they're more or less presented as a promise to deliver gold at your request at a certain price within a certain amount of time in the future. But in fact, the fine print and the practicalities, they are not going to deliver and have not delivered for at least 3 years on the COMEX. They do not deliver the gold. You can't get your gold at that price. And the whole purpose of that market and the way it functions is to create the prospect and, in fact, the reality of parties unnamed who dump large amounts of gold onto the market, willing in those contracts, saying that they are willing to deliver 1 million ounces of gold or more, very large amounts at any price, and they let the market determine that. And of course, when someone dumps that much, it takes a lot of buyers to soak that up, and the price drops. That is the way the futures price changes so much, and of course, that is done particularly at the time options are at the point of expiring, so that they drop the price, and the amount that has to be paid off in money, in dollars, to settle the difference, because they don't settle in gold. It basically takes away, just at the end of the options period, your chance for profit, and they do so by determining the point of least pain for the sellers of those options. You put all of that together, and you have a price suppression mechanism that produces the desired effect, which is to reduce the price of gold, thereby making the dollar seem more valuable. If they did not have that mechanism in place, in my opinion, the price of gold in dollars would be much, much higher than it is presently. but by having that paper mechanism to dump many more ounces of gold onto the market than is available in the market to buy physically, they suppress that paper price, and then the paper price is used to price physical gold. Now that little mechanism has created a very practical problem for the U.S. government, and that is by trying to fool the world that the dollar is really worth quite a lot because you can buy an ounce of gold for whatever that paper price is. The U.S. government has exposed itself to the situation of having major buyers come saying, okay, I want 1 million ounces of gold, or a large number of ounces, a large number of dollars worth. For example, China has been doing this, and whatever countries decide they want to buy the gold, and the U.S. government has been in the position of, they have to see that is delivered some way or other in order to keep up the facade. And so China, for example, has been accumulating gold under this suppressed price because obviously it's a giveaway, and it gives them a way of making up for the losses they are likely to experience on their holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds. And so that is the crazy circumstance we have in the gold market presently, and that is also carried over and done in the same way with regard to silver. The price of silver is artificially suppressed by the paper market and options.
Did you? Because I have someone very close to me. We'll call him a married white male. He went kind of heavy on the silver coins, and Craig said what kind of coin it was yesterday. Double Eagle, Walking Liberty, I don't remember. But he didn't, even though on his website at Swiss America they do sell both gold and silver coins, he didn't sound nearly as excited about silver as he did about gold. My philosophy is it's easier for something to go from, $20 to $200, just to draw a number out of the air, than it is for something to go from $1,300 to $13,000. Your percentage of return is the same.
I understand your point, and
do you agree with him that silver's like kind of he doesn't think of that as a currency, and I know that you think of gold. I mean, it's right on your website that Bitcoin price beats gold, but only gold is good money.
Well, yes. In regard to Craig's comments yesterday, I just had a sort of a fleeting chance to listen to them once.
Okay.
But the impression I got from him was that he was making the point that silver he does not regard as good a monetary metal as gold.
Exactly.
And the reason for that is that it has an industrial use, and its value changes. I'm not saying its price changes; its value changes according to demand. So therefore, I don't know that he was really making the point that the most important aspect of a monetary metal is its unchanging nature.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore its stability and value. Its value does not change. It doesn't get more or less valuable depending very sharply on changes in demand. And I think that is the situation with silver. In fact, there are many who say that even though it is suppressed in its market price now, in order to, it's even really out of whack with gold. Ordinarily in the past, it's been something like 14 times higher price for gold than for silver, and it gets down to something like 10 times the amount or the price at times, but it's much higher ratio now between the silver price and the gold price. And so in that circumstance, you'd have to say that silver is much more underpriced than gold is, at least in relation to gold. So
I like the sound of that.
yes, and therefore there are many very capable observers who view silver as a much better investment than gold, although they regard gold as a very sound way of protecting and preserving wealth against prospective devaluation of fiat currencies.
That will make married white male very happy to hear.
Yes, and there are those who overweight silver, in fact, in relation to the amount of gold. But there are various circumstances. Obviously, when you pay $16, $17, $18 an ounce for gold, and you pay $1,200 or $1,300 an ounce for gold, you have a lot more ounces of silver with the same amount of money, and therefore it is bulkier, it's heavier, it's larger, and so you have to take into account such things as your storage ability and your transport abilities and so forth and so on. One of the things I will just mention, it's not exactly trivial in some points, but it's a point to be made that I would want to point out about the question raised yesterday regarding whether you may or should keep gold in safe deposit boxes in banks.
That was a question from the audience, so yeah, if you could weigh in on that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, whether it is or is not lawful, it's certainly often said by, I think, very experienced observers that it's highly unwise to do so for more reasons than one. It certainly makes the gold very easy to confiscate.
Oh, yeah, they can go in with a metal detector, right? And scan the boxes?
Well, I think they can go in with a power to search,
okay,
which easily obtained by government when they make moves of this nature, and so it's not a problem for them to get whatever is in your box.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think the probability is, given the current administration, that we could see such a move?
I think it's very hard to be sanguine about the nature of the administration we have. There is a tremendous contest being fought right now between the hidden government and the elected government, and it is to the death. So who's going to prevail is hard to say. I certainly know who I hope and pray prevails.
Yeah.
But there are people who have been Trump supporters who have even lost the faith because of moves that have been, actions that have been taken that are very much at odds with the agenda. But there are, in my estimation, there are reports that make me concerned that those actions are being taken regardless of President Trump's wishes and without his approval, and it shows you how much power there is, even when there's an elected president who is against those moves.
Are you able to see my screen right now?
I am,
the
yes.
Republican, I haven't had a chance to read this article. Guys, perhaps towards the end of the show.
Well, I can tell you one aspect of it.
Okay, please.
Certainly.
Please.
That is, there is a Republican congressman from Michigan today who has, in interviews, answered a couple of times that he thinks the Comey charge of obstruction of justice is enough to warrant an impeachment investigation, and that if the evidence proves worthy that there's obstruction of justice, then that would be an impeachable offense, and so forth. But
oh boy,
to me, that is, I mean, just on the surface of it, anyone looking at what has been said so far, there is not even enough said by Mr. Comey himself to warrant that charge. The comment that he made to himself in a memo written by himself at the time is something along the line that the president said that he believes General Flynn is a good man, and I hope this and you can let go of this investigation. Okay. Expressing hope is by no means the same thing as handing down an order that you must do so.
Yeah, and trading hope's not a good strategy.
Yes.
So,
and if in fact the head of the FBI believed that there was anything in the nature of an obstruction of justice by the president or anybody else, he, as well as any of his agents, is required by a statute that is a felony statute. Mm-hmm. They are obligated, as a matter of law, they must report it at the time. They are not permitted to just let it go.
So he's in deep kimchi as well as Trump, potentially, if any of this has any weight to it.
If there were, in fact, an attempt to obstruct justice, what he said in the memo does not reflect, in my opinion, an obstruction of justice or an attempt to obstruct justice. And certainly he didn't treat it as such in writing the memo. He just, in effect, recorded something that was in the nature of the president's preference, which certainly is not unusual to express, it seems to me. But it's amazing to me that the press wants to absolutely limit the comments that it's possible for a president to make, at least this particular president, while there have been example after example after example over the years of just absolutely horrendous presidential conduct, and never a word is said. Nothing could be farther from any suggestion that there might be an ill motive is either this or that kind of a racist or other remark. So I think it's, again, another tempest in a teapot, in large part saying, look over here, look over here, look over here, in order to take away the attention that I think is much more warranted in evidence that came out, I think, yesterday, at least this week. It may have been Monday. But in that regard, in relation to the murder last year, during the late primary season of the Democratic Party, the communications director for the DNC, a young man from Nebraska, Seth Rich, was murdered at something like 4:19 in the morning, 4:19 a.m. in Washington, D.C. by multiple shots in the back. Obviously an assassination.
Was it the same gun?
As far as I understand, it was.
Okay, because we get a lot of these where people commit suicide by shooting themselves in the forehead and the back with two different guns. So we're not strangers to that nonsense. So when it comes to the almighty Clintons.
what was announced about Seth Rich this week is that a private investigator, apparently retained, stated to be retained by the family of Seth Rich to investigate his death, made public his opinion that political pressure had been brought to bear on the police of Washington, D.C. To do nothing in the investigation of that death, to, in effect, suppress any investigation, and that his opinion was it could only have been done by the DNC, by the Clintons, or by a couple of other parties, basically those tied in with the campaign and the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And he also stated he had gotten this information from a source within the police department that very upset about the fact that their investigation had been suppressed, that they had been told to stand down, to leave it alone, to do nothing. And let's see, in that circumstance, the additional piece of information that he provided, which is all important, is that the police department had completed a forensic examination of the laptop computer of Seth Rich, and that forensic examination of his computer showed that he was in touch with WikiLeaks. In effect, giving real substance to the point that he was in fact the one from the insider position that he had at DNC who provided the WikiLeaks emails of the Podesta campaign, the Hillary Clinton campaign, showing that they were rigging the primaries so that only Hillary Clinton had a chance of winning and that Bernie Sanders was being cheated.
Oh, what they did to that guy, man, that's just... Now, I'm no supporter of his by any stretch of the imagination, but he's a human being, and what they did to him was cruel, unusual, and somebody ought to spend some time in a 4x8 thinking about what they did.
Well, on the other side of that equation, as far as Bernie Sanders is concerned, he became substantially more wealthy right at the end of that primary season. And so I'm not necessarily
so
sympathetic.
He may have been a paid actor. Okay.
Whether he was paid in advance, he was paid at the end of it, in effect, to go away and to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it amounted to a house in the...
That'll get your socialist blood boiling. A nice house on the beach.
Not in Martha's Vineyard, but in that exclusive community at the east end of Long Island.
The Hamptons?
Yeah, the Hamptons.
Oh, my. Moving on up.
Right.
Shades of George Jefferson. Goodness gracious.
And Bernie's wife, as I recall, has a very deep problem with a bank loan situation that she raised some money and apparently is in the serious stages of being accused of fraud.
Uh-oh.
In a bank loan that she got for the college that she was heading up in Vermont. So she has very serious legal problems. Not that it's related to this, but it's just something that comes to mind because it's highly related to the kind of people and to the circumstances involved in all this.
In the words of the great one, Gomer Pyle, "Oh, what a wicked web we weave when first we practice to deceive." I quoted Red Skelton last night in an article, and now here I am quoting Gomer Pyle.
Mm-hmm. Well, here we are. So we have those kind of considerations, and with the press spending just about full time, 24 hours a day, making certain that as much pressure is brought to bear to.
The guy's trying to drain the swamp, and he can't keep his hand on the plow or the drainer or whatever you call it because he's so busy swatting flies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this media, I've never seen. It's become a circus, and how any intelligent human being with a normal or above IQ, if the fact that they cannot see this is just, well, it goes back to the fact that they went to university. They got, they're saddled with debt from this college loan, and they were indoctrinated for 4, 6, 8 years, however long they went. And I mean, this doggone Common Core, they're rewriting history. My kids have been instructed. My daughter's 10, my son just turned 15. My daughter will turn 10 in July. They've been instructed when this Common Core crap is spewed in the classroom, if it's something that they know in their heart is not right because it's been discussed in our home over our dinner table. We have some very spirited discussions at dinner. We always eat dinner as a family. They are instructed to stand up and say, my father will not allow me to listen to this garbage. With all due respect, I'll be out in the hall when you finish. And they are to leave the classroom. They've not had to pull it yet, but they've come real close.
Well, it's a difficult burden to have to carry.
Yeah.
When indoctrination is a part of the role that schools play. Very, very difficult.
Tell you what, the first time they put a condom on a cucumber in front of my daughter, I'm going to be up in that. I've already been up in there. I had a meeting a couple years ago with about 8 PhDs sitting around a table. And I let them know exactly how I felt. And when I have to go to school events now, the other night I had to go to a concert because my son plays the sax like Kenny G. I bumped uglies with the school principal. She's probably a very nice lady outside of her role as principal of that school. It's a middle school. And we gave each other a polite nod. It's a polite society. But, boy, there's no love lost between me and her, let me tell you. I think there's vaguely some mutual respect, perhaps, but no love lost.
I understand. Well, let me do this. I got away a little bit from the points I wanted to make about
please, bring
Craig's comments yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
One in regard to the gold and whether you want to put it in a bank, safe deposit box or otherwise. One of the reports that has been around for years from more sources than one, but certainly there is in a book called Gold Warriors that is credited very highly, the man and wife authors of it.
Okay.
I'm absolutely amazed at what a detailed story they presented, not story, but report covering years and years. But one of the things in regard to banks and the storage of gold is a detailed report they make about the consistent experience of people with large amounts of gold entrusting it with the large banks and having the experience that they surrender their gold, they deliver their gold to the bank gives them certificates, signed certificates entitling them to that gold.
Right.
And
if you can't touch it, you don't own it.
And they go back to present it. In fact, the Gold Warrior says, they may do nothing more than just take the certificates, walk around the block, and come back. And they are told that those look to be like fake certificates.
Oh my goodness!
And if you are presenting this to us as a serious claim of gold, we must call federal authorities and report this crime. And
you gotta be kidding
you better
me.
consider it carefully. They report many aspects of conduct of that nature that is just the Seagraves. That's the book I'm talking about. And it certainly is focused primarily upon the confiscation of gold and other valuables by the Japanese in China and Asia during World War II, before and during the war, and the storage of those riches, first in the underground vaults of the Japanese royal family in Japan, but then later, as we cut the supply lines going to Japan by ocean, the storage began in major vaults built in the Philippines. And they provide quite detailed accounts of how those were designed and built, and how the storage was done, and who was involved, and procedures by which those who actually built those vaults and filled them were by their procedures basically celebrated when they got the work done. Then an explosion while they were celebrating inside the vault closed the exits, and those who built them died inside.
Oh my goodness!
In order to make sure that they were kept secret.
Wow, this is powerful. I can't wait to read this.
Well, I would hope that there are those who would find the same amount of information worthy of sitting on the edge of your seat and reading my book.
Hey, your book too. Absolutely. That is a must-read for this audience, because you're here with us every Wednesday. Guys, classicalcapital.com or amazon.com, search for The Fruits of Graft.
Well, apart from that plug again, I apologize for that, but
no.
Here we are.
Well deserved.
Again, back to the points that Craig was making yesterday. He said that the confiscation and devaluation was for the purpose of adding more money, that Roosevelt had to do that confiscation and devaluation in order to add more money into the economy. Well, the point is that I report in my book, he most carefully did not do that. That is not the way he did his devaluation. He just changed the price of gold. If he wanted to get more money in the economy, he would have devalued the gold or the dollar before confiscating it. And he would have paid the people holding gold $35 an ounce for their dollars,
which back then was a fair piece of change.
Well, not only that, it was something like a 67% increase in the price of gold.
Mm-hmm.
That would have added dollars to the economy.
That's right.
But he most certainly did not do that. He paid them $20.67 and then devalued. And when he devalued, he did so only by declaring a change in the price of the gold that would be paid by anyone allowed to buy it, which meant foreigners. Americans were not permitted to buy it. And so he did it on he used the political ruse that he says he wasn't going to provide one more dollar to those big banks. Well, that was just a cover for the fact that there was he did not have any intention in doing this to allow the economy to recover any better. In fact, the way he did it was specifically to put only the $20.67 into the economy, not the $35. And moreover, when he, I've got another point that I need to make.
While that comes to you, let me just say, news that you broke on this show. Before becoming the director of the FBI, I'm reading from an article, Director Comey worked at the criminal bank of HSBC, which laundered drug cartel and terrorist drug money in the worst banking scandal in U.S. history. My best insider source states that FBI Director James Comey had absolutely no law enforcement background and is not qualified to run the FBI. Apparently this was written before he was ousted. To add insult to injury, the FBI director held an executive position at HSBC Bank, just as you reported, while extreme money laundering operations were being carried out by the Mexican drug cartel and their terrorist allies with the direct assistance of HSBC banking officials. I asked my source if Comey would have known, and he replied he would have had to have been drunk 24/7 to not know what was going on.
Yes, I think I commented about that last week, and I think I've written briefly about it. But it's a very serious thing.
You also answered an email from a member of the audience. Well, the question was asked on the show, and you said, well, I'm going to go research it, and then you emailed me the evidence that you found. And if you have the time, I'd love I'd love the audience to hear you say it in your words about President Obama, put on a big parade about how he was going to stop this insider trading of Congress. There was much ballyhoo, a lot of backslapping, handshaking, and then something happened that never quite made it into the mainstream media. Could you tell us, in your own words, what you shared with me via email?
Yes, I did check into that. I think John, one of your listeners, emailed you asking that question. I checked into it right after the show and found that, yes, the way the insider trading was put back into the rights of members of Congress and Senate is there was a bill that was walked through both houses of Congress during the off hours when there's nobody in the chamber, and you get actions taken by unanimous consent. And basically, whoever's in the chair says, hearing no objection, that order is approved. Now, basically, what they did is...
The janitor took out his earbuds and said, "You talking to me?" And the congressman goes, "No, I'm not talking to you." So the janitor puts his earbuds back in, turns the vacuum cleaner back on. Okay, go ahead.
There you are. But basically, they walked through the ability of, or the arrangement that members of the House and the Senate will still not be subject to being called on the carpet or charged with insider trading when they take actions based on inside information that they get on their personal investments.
And the reason, folks, that was offered in this bill was that members of Congress and other high-ranking officials who have access to this insider information were required to register their financial profile in a searchable database online. And so Congress saw that as an invasion of personal privacy. What a joke with everybody. What we're saying right now, the phone call you made to your mother Sunday, it's all been taped and stored on a server. I know we don't use tape anymore, but you get my point. They said because, people's privacy was at stake, that this just wasn't a good idea. And so they just kicked that to the curb. Now, there was no parades, no ballyhoo, no backslapping over that. It was done quiet, in the dark of night, and it passed in, what, 30 minutes?
I think it wasn't 30 minutes. It was probably more like a
30
minute or
seconds.
less
Yeah,
in
okay.
each of the chambers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those things where they nobody's there. Somebody comes in to do the deed, reads it out as to the number of the bill or something or other, and unanimous consent passes it through. Thanks to your willingness to let me recall for just a minute the point that I was going to make about
sir.
FDR and the gold.
Okay.
It did come back to mind, thankfully, and that is that not only did he not add the dollars by paying the owners of that gold the $35 price, he paid them only $20, but having that gold, then what did he do with it? If he wanted to add more money into the economy, then he could have taken that gold at the new $35 rate, and he could have delivered it into the Federal Reserve and say, issue dollars based on this additional amount of gold you have. So he could have provided gold-backed dollars at the $35 rate through the Fed and allow that to be a stimulus into the economy to replace, in effect, what he had taken out, but and even to add to it. But he did not do that. He did not add any of the gold to the monetary base. And as I report in my book, he did the same thing in keeping gold out of the monetary base, even when it came in from foreign countries during the mid-1930s, when the war drums started beating in Europe. There was greater transfer of wealth from Europe to the U.S. to get away from the oncoming war, and by 36 and 37, there was large amounts of capital coming in, and therefore gold flows into the U.S. And he kept that gold from going into the Federal Reserve monetary base on the pretext that it was so-called hot money, and those foreign entities might come around and want it back, and it would upset the economy if they allowed the dollar base to be increased at that time. I mean, those were such extreme and obvious actions taken when you understand how that drastically undercut the ability of the economy to have the money that it needed. That is why stocks and things such as food and other foodstuffs, the prices fell to 5 cents or less on the dollar, because there was such a reduction in capital available for hiring, for manufacturing, for any kind of economic activity. It was, as I've said before, an imposed famine. And the devaluation had one effect, as much as anything. It empowered foreign currencies to buy more. It gave the foreign currencies an advantage in buying foodstuffs because their stronger currencies gave them more buying power with the devalued U.S. dollar. And so the foreign buyers of food, wheat, corn, and so forth, caused those crops to be exported while Americans were starving. So it had a very debilitating effect on the health.
Americans are starving, and we're exporting food.
That's the case, and it was not just merely a breakdown in the economic system or the kinds of
This was
foolishness.
before welfare and food stamps and SNAP and all that, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
The historical reports, as I report in my book, were that farmers on the Great Plains were putting bramble bush into water and heating it to make soup to feed their children. That is what was going on in America.
My goodness.
And it was imposed by our secret government that still rules us today. That is why I spent the effort to bring this to the attention of American people. We've been lied to. We need to know the truth. And when we do, we will have a different appreciation and understanding of how to interpret events today. And I do cover events today up through 2000 into 2011, including the financial terrorism of 2008 and the so-called tech crash of 2002, telling how those were actually orchestrated crashes, just as 1929 was, because crashes are the most profitable time for financial operators that they ever have. They make more money in a shorter amount of time than any growth period in history.
When the bottom fell out in real estate here in America, on this radio every day I was pounding the desk, guys, there are going to be more millionaires and billionaires made out of this crash than anything in history since the railroads. And people were like, what are you, nuts? $300,000 houses are going to $100,000. I said, yeah, and the people who have money are scooping them up left and right. Because guess what? They're back to $300,000 now. And I mean, I said, guys, we're talking about dynasties. Generational wealth is going to come out of this great recession. Take it, do what you got to do. Friends, family, to sell the car. Get your hands on some money and buy some real estate. They're practically giving it away. In places like Detroit, you could buy a house from the city if you were willing to go in and rehabilitate it and rehab it for, $20 in some cases, just like some nominal transfer fee, just to get it off the books of the city, because they were having to maintain it because whoever had bought it had walked away from it. Now, granted, Detroit's, not the Bahamas, but I'm telling you, when I first started this radio show in 2005, I was following Sir John Templeton. And if you go back to the early shows, and we have the recordings, guys, I was pounding the desk every day. Don't buy the houses, buy the gold. Don't buy the houses, buy the gold. Then, when the bottom fell out of real estate, I switched my tune. I says, okay, now buy the houses, okay? And don't get rid of your gold. You don't have to. So, sometimes these things are to me, so obvious, and it's my job, as God put me in this chair for a reason, I guess, and that's to help other people see these incredible opportunities. I mean, it's out of the worst calamities of life that spring the greatest opportunities. I'm sure there's a famous quote in there somewhere, and I probably just skewered it, but you get my point.
I certainly do.
Let me ask you a question. I included in that email last night, I forwarded you a separate email, and I wanted to talk to you about it when you have time off the air. Did you get it, and would it be okay to call you off the air?
Of course.
Okay.
And yes, I did get it.
Okay, good. Because this has become a real problem for a lot of people. A lot of small operations are getting their back broken, and it's just wrong. Good people are being hurt, and I'm mad. So, okay.
Well, let me mention one of the things you were talking about, the housing and so forth, the 2008 calamity. Well, one of the things that went down in that tumultuous year, and a significant aspect of it. There are quite a number of them, but I cover in some detail the takedowns of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, very, very large so-called government-sponsored organizations. They were private organizations owned by investors and having stockholders and so forth. But they had many hundreds of billions of in mortgages that they had bought in the market, and the way in which those were taken down, they essentially were having their shares of stock counterfeited by a process called naked short selling, and in such volumes that 400 million shares a day were being falsely or counterfeited and sold into the market in order to depress the prices and make it appear that there was a run against those organizations, that they were worthless. And of course, all of that was fed into by the press, saying that all of these very bad loans were made to poor people who had no business having a house and so forth and so on. That was in large part made up and fraudulent. The way in which those, the reason those stocks went down and made it appear those organizations were failing was because of the naked short selling. And I could go into more detail about it, as I did in my book. But nevertheless, you come to the point that those organizations had mortgages of great value in them. There were some cases made, or instances made particularly for the press, in which there were fraudulent mortgages specifically made for the purpose of being fraudulent, and then duplicated many times over by this derivatives that in effect was a copy of the bad mortgage. And they made some of those things that exploded on the dupe organizations to which they were sold. All of that was contrived in order to make it look like it was a real mortgage collapse. And in that process, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were taken over by the federal government as if to save them. What they took them over for, in my estimation, was to loot them. And part of the looting that was done or intended was to be selling their mortgages at very, very sharply discounted prices to private organizations that were in on the scam. But in those circumstances, the federal government came in and took over conservatorship. And what we just learned within the past month or so is that the earnings by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that have resulted from the recovery in value of those mortgages, they weren't bad at all. They were very valuable. It turned out they were very valuable, and there was much gain on them as the years passed along. And we've learned now for the past 3 or 4 years that the federal government, in its conservatorship of those two organizations, have been stealing the money, $200 billion a year at least, from those private organizations being caretaken by the federal government, stealing it from the shareholders and using it to support Obamacare on a surreptitious basis to cover up just how far into the red Obamacare is. It seems to me that is a scandal that ought to send quite a few people to prison, including
Wayne,
federal officials.
my health insurance premiums went to $2,700 a month for me and my wife in the state of Arizona. I cannot. My back's killing me. I think something might seriously be wrong. I can't afford to go to the doctor.
Well, there we are. I know I've taken 1 minute over our allotted hour.
No, that's fine. When we go into overtime, that's all right. I allot for that, and it's okay. Is there any other topics that you would like to touch on or cover today?
I think that's it.
Okay.
I do think that the aspects relating to the crimes committed. I mean, what we have in that situation regarding Seth Rich, we have a very strong circumstantial evidence providing an overwhelming motive as well as means and capability and so forth to Hillary Clinton and the Clintons and those related to the Clinton Foundation and so forth, relating to a murder that took place in Washington, D.C., right in the heat of the challenges being made to her and her nomination. It seems to me that is the crime at a level in our government that ought to be pursued.
Yes.
There have been too many of those murders. There were a half a dozen or more murders similar to Seth Rich's back during that same period of time, and not a thing done about it.
Not a thing. I'm telling you, people were shot in the forehead, shot in the back, with 2 different guns, and the coroners ruled it suicide because those people had ties to Bill and Hillary Clinton or the Clinton Foundation, or some poor guy went on a date with Chelsea. I mean, I don't know. And you know what? Speaking of Chelsea, despite my personal opinion, that so-called comedian the other night who made that incestuous joke about Donald Trump's daughter, man, can you imagine if somebody had said something like that about Sasha and Malika or whatever President Obama's daughter's names were? I mean, that is the dirtiest of dirty dealing. You don't drag people's families into it, and you certainly don't insinuate something of that horrific nature.
Well, it's a sordid circumstance we have, and we have dangers that they're still trying to start a world war. They're reaching in every direction to try to maintain power, because I think it is true, if we learn anything like the truth about the crimes they are committing even now, it would be a horrendous punishment that they would deserve. And that is why they're pulling out all the stops. And unfortunately, they seem to be having supporters in all different circumstances, most likely because they have the same kind of blackmailing mechanism going on that has become apparent in so many cases already.
Yeah. Now feel free to plead the fifth on this question. That's perfectly okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, your approval rating of Donald Trump's job since his inauguration. And I have to say since his inauguration because he did more from, since his election, because he did more between being elected and inauguration than some presidents do in their whole term. So again, you can plead the fifth, but if you are willing to share, job approval, 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst.
Oh, I don't know. I think I would have to put it in something like a 6 or 7.
Okay.
I give him a great deal of, well, I mean, it was so clear to me. I said back in 2009 that there was going to be no improvement in the economy.
Mm-hmm.
I called, by 2011, I called what we were in another Great Depression. And I did so because I could tell from the very beginning that the economic policies of the Obama administration did not intend to permit economic recovery, much less encourage it,
Right.
or assure it, or help it along.
Right.
The policies were just so clearly carried out
What was
in
the
such
first
a way.
idiotic thing he did? Cash for clunkers?
Well, something of that nature.
Yeah.
But the tip-off, for example, was going into his inauguration. He was absolutely going to repeal the Bush tax cuts of 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, once he got in, he said, well, no, we can't do that. We're too bad off.
Yeah, we need the money. Right.
But I'm certainly going to do it 2 years from now. That was the tip-off.
Huh.
Because it took out any benefit that keeping those lower tax rates would have achieved in the economy. He basically said to anyone in business, don't depend on this. We're going to raise your taxes for sure in 2 years. And so it made sure there was going to be no economic recovery. And then he did that again 2 years later. He kept the old tax rates in effect, but says, I'm certainly going to do it 2 years from now on. So even though he wasn't raising the rates, he was promising higher rates ahead to make sure there was no one who was going to make a business expansion decision based on those rates. So with those kind of tip-offs, they're just straws in the wind that the intention is not to do anything. And then, all the shovel-ready jobs that they just couldn't find. It was a ruse from the beginning, and they were just monkeying with the employment figures in order to make it appear that more people had jobs when the Obamacare thing then came in, and I've never seen a more effective job killer than that.
Oh, boy.
Not to mention
my
medical
doctor back then, when I had real insurance and a real doctor and the whole nine, he closed his practice here in Phoenix, Arizona, and moved to Alaska to become like a research scientist at a hospital where he was not dependent upon payments from patients and their insurers, but got a fine salary from the hospital itself for the work that he was going to do. Picked up his family. I mean, he had a wife and kids and, a life here in Phoenix, Arizona. He'd been in practice for many years. He was probably, 40-something. And he said, Dwayne, I'm sorry. I feel terrible. But I can't feed my family with what is coming. Now, this was before the stuff really hit the fan. I mean, he was smart enough to see it coming, and he made appropriate life plans to do what he had to do. And he and I were friends, Most people hate going to the doctor. When it was time for my visit with him, we were kind of like friends. He was somebody I could, unload on and maybe share my heart with a little bit. And so I miss him,
Well, I might say, add a little bit more flavor since you asked the question. The 6 or thereabouts rating for Trump, it's primarily because of the alarming things that have been done. I believe, I don't know why, I can't, in the military area, the bombing of Syria was an international crime. I really detest the fact that it was done.
Okay.
And I can't imagine what it was that brought him to the point of reversing what he had indicated during the campaign. I think it had to be something that the generals had or did or insisted upon in some way or other. I can't tell. But there are things going on in that avenue still. At the saber rattling and, right at the brink of war with North Korea. I mean,
why don't we just swat that fly and get on with life? I mean,
well, the thing is, there's, in my estimation, there's not a fly that needs to be swatted, at least to the extent of anything having to do with weaponry of that kind, especially when they have the capability to wipe out South Korea. Those are people too. Yes, regardless of whether they're in the United States.
Absolutely. I agree, and I don't relish the thought of collateral damage, but I think we have the technology to, with surgical precision, do what needs. I know I'm a Christian, folks, but I'm sorry. Read the Old Testament. There's a lot of war, and I know there's a New Testament and things change and whatnot.
Well, I'll tell you, with the circumstances that we have and all of the things that I've had the duty to expose about the kind of beings who have run our government and who control so much from behind the scenes, the shadow government, as they call it. They call it that themselves, one that will cause our elected government to collapse into their arms so that they can take full power and no longer have to put up with voting of so-called citizens. That is the objective that has been going on in this country for a long time, as well as others around the world. But in that circumstance, I do not want our people to be in the position of pulling the plug on millions of people in South Korea because we feel somehow infringed. That's just too big an anti-God act, in my opinion, for us to just take it upon ourselves. We're being annoyed too much, and therefore South Korea is expendable, or North Korea for that matter. They're people too. And I'm not at all sure.
Right, and not every North Korean is Kim Jong-un or whatever.
And I'm not at all sure he's not simply a puppet of the same people who are using all of these other tactics to fool us into thinking that we have real enemies someplace, as they are trying to do with Russia.
Yeah.
There are also troops from the United States being shipped to Kosovo right now. They were over the weekend being shipped from Fort Hood, Texas.
How many?
To Kosovo. I don't have the numbers.
Okay.
But I've certainly heard 100,000 and more.
Wow.
In Jordan, not even Kosovo, in Jordan, supposedly getting ready for an invasion of Syria. Now, I'm very hopeful still that President Trump is going to be in the position of being able to stop that and prevent it, and make certain we do not get into additional ground wars or any other kind of war for that matter.
Right.
I believe that many of his supporters supported him because Hillary Clinton had declared her intention to take us into full-bore war against the government of Syria. And yet...
Yeah, well, war's hell and she's the princess. I caution this audience because leading up to the election, we had a predominantly pro-Trump audience, and everybody was chanting Trump, Trump, Trump. And I said, okay, guys, now, you know my feelings and you know where my vote's going. But I just want you to understand that if you elect this man, okay, no matter how much you like all the different things that he stands for, which I like as well, he is going to do some things that are going to tick you off. If you think you're getting a president who's just going to do, it's like the opposite of, and Craig brought it up on the radio yesterday. He said, Dwayne, remember back when Obama first got elected, that commercial where the woman of color was talking about how she wouldn't have to pay her mortgage anymore and how Obama was going to put gas in her car? Well, I think some people who voted for Trump thought that he was, it's kind of like when people become a quote unquote Christian. It's like, oh, well, I'm a Christian now, so I'm not going to have any more problems. Oh, brother, your problems just start because now you're giving the enemy something to fight over. I told people Trump's going to do things that you're not going to like, you're not going to agree with, but it's all part and parcel. Okay, if you want this, this, and this, then you're going to have to be willing to accept this, this, and this. So there's no perfect world, except the one Elon's building on Mars. We'll see how that works out.
Well, I'm hopeful that he's going to be able to get more effective control both of the White House and the various departments. I don't think they have full control of the State Department yet.
No, they don't.
And other departments as well. It just goes on and on.
Boy, I wish I was a young kid fresh out of college. I would give anything to get an internship and work in the West Wing for a summer or as long as they would let me stick around. I've watched enough of these TV shows that supposedly simulate what goes on. I'd love to see it with my own eyes. Have you ever been to the White House?
I've been to the White House. I haven't gone through it. My wife went through it when I was back there. She went with me one trip back in the 60s. Mm-hmm. And she still vividly recalls that she was able to walk right up to the front door of the White House, go in the door, and proceed with her tour of the premises. It was very, very different than what it is now, with all of the security and that sort of thing.
Right.
So
it's a good memory for her.
Back in the 60s, I actually had an office at just about 3 blocks from the White House.
Oh, really?
Just up the street a little bit, past the executive office building, 8th Street, and then about 3 doors down. So
oh my goodness.
it was an interesting time. And
now that's when Richard Nixon was in the White House?
No, that was when Lyndon Johnson.
Lyndon Johnson. Oh, that's right. Kennedy was assassinated. Lyndon took over, and the first thing he did was repeal that money that John F. Kennedy had printed by the Treasury and not the Federal Reserve. Correct? Wasn't that one of his first actions?
Well, I don't recall whether it was or not. I wouldn't be at all surprised.
I think it was,
because that certainly was another of the motives. For assassinating the president, and I'm still amazed at the existence today of active efforts online to insist that Lee Harvey Oswald killed the president acting alone.
Yeah, that dog won't hunt. Do you have any? I know you got to go. We've probably already talked about this. Were you surprised by what happened with Bill O'Reilly?
I don't know enough about it to.
Well, he was charged with sexual misconduct and let go from Fox News.
Well, yes. Point is, I don't know enough about what was behind the scenes, whether it was true, what. There's some who are saying now that
Sean Hannity. Yeah, they're starting to say he's guilty too. I just don't buy it.
Trying to get so-called conservatives off the air.
That's right. There's only one conservative voice in mainstream media, and if they can silence that voice, oh my goodness, we go to heck in a handcart real fast.
Well, I'll tell you, it has become such a wasteland of trying to find something worthwhile that I rarely even watch the news of that kind. There are 1 or 2 programs that sometimes have guests that make it worthwhile to check in on something. But O'Reilly was never one of my favorites, I have to admit.
I found him interesting. In fact, I only became familiar with him over the last maybe 2 years because my neighbor, she worked for the government as a civilian as a programmer for many years. She retired early with a golden parachute, and she is an O'Reilly devotee. She belongs to the website. She's got every book he ever wrote. She thinks the sun sits and rises and Bill O'Reilly. I don't know if her opinion has changed. I haven't had a chance to talk to her since all of this happened. Maybe that's a good reason to go over and have a glass of water with her tonight and see if she's changed her thoughts in any way. Because boy, he was a real hero to her.
Yes. Well, I don't know enough about him for sure to have a very firm opinion in all respects. But I know that at one occasion, a friend gave my wife a copy of his book about killing Lincoln,
Mm-hmm.
and my wife was reading it and happened to call something to my attention. I looked at it. And it immediately, I said, that's just an error. It was about the vice president under Lincoln, Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
Being supposedly a very severe anti-Southern, anti-Confederacy politician.
Mm-hmm.
And the opposite was the case. I knew that from my own studies.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't believe it, and I looked at it, and it wasn't just a trivial misstatement at in one sentence or something like that. It was a development of the theme that supposedly Johnson was a radical Republican that wanted to punish the South severely, as compared to Lincoln, who did not feel that way. Well, in fact, history has been clear for a long time that Johnson was very much in line with Lincoln's view, that is, that there should be reconciliation. They should be treated as fellow Americans rather than as the conquered war, and so forth and so on. And that is why Andrew Johnson was impeached, trying to remove him from office after the assassination of
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
I remember my grandfather just despised Lyndon Johnson. I don't know the reasons, but I just remember as a child. I was only about 5 years old. I was 4 or 5 when this all happened. But I remember he had, and my grandfather was the sheriff of the small town that we grew up in Georgia, and he was the law. He had no backup. He had no police. He had no deputy. It was just him. He carried his .38 in his front pocket, and when the phone would ring in the middle of the night, he'd have to get in his car and go.
Yes.
It was quite an amazing. What a hero! What a brave man he was. They didn't even have. He didn't even have a two-way radio. There was nobody to call.
Well, that's the kind of town I grew up in as well.
I have a family photo album, and the front page is him and my father, who was at the tender age of 16, deputized, and they are taking pickaxes to moonshine stills.
Mm-hmm.
That's my legacy.
Yes. Well, that's an interesting story.
Yeah.
And,
well, hey, listen, thank you so much. You stayed over. We really appreciate you. I'm glad you got to listen in yesterday. I hope you'll be able to listen tomorrow, either live or to the recording with David Bradshaw. And then at some point, I would love to do a show, sort of a summit, where we bring Craig, you, and David, bring all of us together and sit at the table and chat for a half hour or so.
well, that would be a lot of fun.
I'm going to see if I can mastermind it.
Interesting, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
God bless
Thank you very
brother.
much for having me.
I'm going to email you and find a good time that I can call you and bend your ear for 5 minutes.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for
sir.
having me.
Thank you
And
for
thanks to
being
the
here.
audience.
Guys, go to classicalcapital.com. Read all of the essays Wayne has wrote. Those won't cost you a dime. And then break out your wallet. Get a copy of The Fruits of Graft. It's over 500 pages. This man poured almost 6 years of his life into this book. It's not a bunch of conspiracy theories. You don't need a tinfoil hat here. There's facts. There's names. Get the book. See you next Wednesday. And he's gone like the wind. All right. We're going to have to boogie, because I got mentoring sessions and all other kind of stuff. Let's see what you guys put in the chat box. There was a question that says, because I talked about the gold and I talked about the houses and what I was, telling the general public I thought was the best thing to do. And Mark from the audience says, so, well, what are you saying now? And my answer to him was this. In states where real estate has not fully recovered, buy houses and farmland as much as you can. If you live where real estate has already come back, like, say, San Francisco, where the average median house is over $1 million, because of all the fat paychecks in Silicon Valley. If you live where real estate has already come back, then the best thing I can suggest is gold and silver, physical holdings for investment purposes. If you can't touch it, you don't own it. And also as a hedge against the apocalypse. Of course, the greatest hedge against the apocalypse is to have a personal relationship with your Creator. But having a little gold and silver, tucked away in the safe, that's not a bad idea either. Okay? Now, I cannot give you individualized investment advice. I can talk about trading all day long. I can speak to you as a group. I'm a Yahoo with a microphone and an opinion and a pretty healthy following around the world. Okay? So, just always remember, before you make any investment decision, because I'm not going to be able to play the disclaimer at the end of the show today the way I normally do. We're not done yet, but I'm just saying, always consult with a licensed investment professional, which would be someone like a Bert Schlichter or a Leslie Burton at Daniels Trading, 866-928-3310. Why do I recommend them? Because they're the best I know in the business. They're honest, they're believers, and they care about their clients. You see, unfortunately, most brokers know the statistics. Your gardener knows the statistics. 90% of those who attempt to become traders for a living fail. Now, why do they fail? Because they don't have the trading trifecta. The trading trifecta? What's that? Patience, discipline, and a personal mentor. If you do not have those three things, you are pretty much doomed to stand in the 90% line of other good, well-meaning people who just simply wanted to make some money, take advantage of, all this technology that we have now and this ease of access to the markets. And in the case of the CFRN community, with the exception, and you know what? I said this the other day and I spoke amiss. I said, with the exception of the few atheists that we have, every person I've personally mentored has shared their heart and their biggest goal for any profits they realize from trading. I've never heard bigger house. I've never heard faster car. I've never heard implants for the wife or imported cigars for myself. What I've heard is a new wing at the church, homes for the homeless, food for the hungry, preach the gospel to the four corners of the universe, orphanages. This is the heart of the CFRN community. Okay? Now, there is a 10% line. Those are people And trust me, I'm not saying that the 10% line are all CFRN partners. No. But I am telling you that that 10% line, they didn't get there by luck, because there is no luck in trading. I mean, you can have a lucky trade every now and then, but you don't earn a living. You don't become a professional trader based on luck. What those people have in the 10% line is they have the trading trifecta. They've got patience, they've got discipline, and they have a personal mentor. If you struggle with patience and if you struggle with discipline, your personal mentor is going to help you develop those qualities, just like a personal trainer is going to stand over you while you try to get that barbell up. He's going to spot you. He's going to work with you. He's going to push you. And he's going to help you become a better person. And that's our goal. We have the tools. We have the education. If you become a CFRN partner, our goal is to help you become a better trader. Period. All right. I said we got a boogie. We got a boogie. Okay, we're headed now for our good word for the day. Get my notes. And because of the crash yesterday, it's going to take me a second to get them up and happening. But stay with me. It'll be worth it. It always is. Okay, we're almost there. Anger. You ever get angry? A little ticked off? Maybe it's a guy that cuts you off in traffic. Maybe it's the markets. Every time you go long, they go short. Every time you go short, they go long. You know, there's a reason for that. And when you become a partner and we start doing mentoring sessions together one-on-one, I'm going to teach you why that happens, how that happens, and how to stop it. Now, will you be able to stop it 100% of the time? No. But even when it does happen, you'll understand why it happened. And you'll begin to grow and mature. It's called learning how to trade. That's what we do. We help people learn how to trade. Anger. Luke 23:34. They do not know what they're doing. Max Lucado writes, it begins as a drop of water. Someone gets your parking place, pulls in front of you on the motorway. A waitress is slow and you're in a hurry. The toast burns. Get enough of these seemingly innocent drops of anger and you've got a bucket full of rage. We trust no one. Bare our teeth at anyone. We become walking time bombs that, given the right amount of tension or fear, in market context, greed or fear, could explode. We can't deny the fact that anger exists. The question is, how do we harness it? It is an energy. It is alive. It is powerful. We can't wish it away. We can't dream it away. We have to harness it. Jesus said about the mob that killed him in Luke 23:34, Father, forgive them. They don't have a clue what they're doing. He saw this bloodthirsty, death-hungry crowd, not as murderers, but as victims. Oh, did you hear what I said? He saw them as victims. He saw in their faces not hatred, but confusion. He regarded them not as a militant mob, but like sheep without a shepherd. They didn't have a personal mentor. That's Mark 6:34. I put the part in about personal mentor. They don't know what they're doing. Jesus said that, and so did I. Think about it. They hadn't the faintest idea. They were a stir-crazy mob, mad at something they couldn't see, so they took it out on, of all people, God. Now think about it. When you blow up, do you blow up at a stranger? Rarely, because you don't know if he's got a gun under the seat or not. We usually will blow up and bite the heads off of our spouse, our children, maybe even our parents, or our neighbor, because we know how far we can push them. And so we do. These people who took it out on God, they didn't know what they were doing, and for the most part, neither do we. As much as we hate to admit it, we're shepherdless sheep, born out of one eternity and frighteningly close to another. We can't answer our own questions about love and hurt. We can't solve the riddle of aging. We get up every morning, we look in the mirror, we see a new spot or wrinkle. And friend, if you don't think the enemy will use that to get a toehold into your day and into your life, you need to rethink that. When you can't do the things you used to do, you can't bend over quite the way you used to, you can't lift quite as much as you once did. Hey, it's called getting older. Some people grow older angrily. Some people grow older gracefully. You get to decide. You get to make that choice. We don't know how to heal our own bodies, or sometimes even how to get along with our spouse, even after 36 years. My point is this: uncontrolled anger will not make our world a better place. Sympathetic understanding will. You want to change the world? Try some sympathetic understanding the next time you're moved to anger. Are you willing to try that? I'm going to ask you to do it from me, but you're really doing it for yourself, for your own peace of mind, for your own sanity. Once we begin to operate not from a posture of anger, but of compassion, we realize the lights are out. A lot of people are stumbling in darkness. So what do? We light candles. And you know, the light of one candle can light 1,000 candles. And it never diminishes the brightness of the original candle. Will you light a candle today? That's our good word for the day. You don't have to be Catholic. And I'm not talking about a physical candle. But will you make it a point? Somewhere, some way, somehow, before the sun sets, light a candle. And you know what? And when you light it, don't brag about it. Don't go run around telling me, hey, I lit a candle, man. No. Sometimes you keep things between you and the Father. I would much rather get my rewards in eternity than from Joe Blow across the street. Oh, hey man, I heard you just got a big award for blah blah blah. It's like, Thank you. I had somebody in a mentoring session the other day. It kind of took me aside, or kind of took me out of my rhythm in the mentoring session. And this might be very unhumble of me to say, but I'm an open book with you guys. And I know sometimes I tear pages out that you wish I would leave in, but anyway, he says, you know what? One of the biggest things was that attracted me and my friend to you. I said, my luxurious mane. He said, your humility. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, even my wife, who she sometimes, she's a very nice woman, but sometimes not everyone falls into her good graces. But she heard you, and she said, that's a humble man. Now, it might seem pretty immodest to call yourself humble, but all I can say is that I strive for humility. Because the Bible says that God loves a humble man, and he rebukes the proud. So, anytime I get anywhere near something that tweaks my spirit and starts to sound like braggadocio or chest thumping or any of that, I backpedal real quick. Because any success that I have today, whether it's in the markets, whether it's in my relationship with my wife or my children, or the internet, or my computer, I give all the glory to God. I am his servant, and I do my best to be his humble servant. I went through a period in my life as I was making the change from the bad boy of business to a humble servant of God, hopefully, where in the mornings when I woke up, before I would stand up and get full of myself, I would slither out of bed onto the floor, face down, and begin to pray. Not with my laundry list of needs, but thanking God that I woke up with a healthy body and in my right mind. And then I would say, now God, I know you're busy. You got a lot going on. How can I help you today? What can I do for you today? You put it or them in my path. Speak to me by the Holy Spirit and have him use his outside voice, because sometimes I don't always hear so good. And I promise you, I'll do my best to deal with the challenge that you've put before me. And then I would get up, and then I'd go out on the front porch and have a smoke. True story. Bless God, that was 6 years ago. I'm not going to go through the whole quit smoking story again, but if you still smoke, God still loves you. And just because you smell like tobacco, you're not going to hell. But for the sake of your children and your wife and your own health. When my uncle was diagnosed with lung cancer, from the day of his diagnosis to the end of life, 30 days. Now, I know that some people who've never smoked a day in their life get lung cancer. It's true. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. My uncle, on the other hand, was a 4-pack a day guy. I remember asking him, Raymond, how do you even find enough hours in the day to smoke? There's 20 in a pack. That's 80 cigarettes. I mean, let's say you sleep 8 hours, where's my calculator? So you got 16 hours left. Okay, so if you take 80 cigarettes and you divide it by 16 hours, that's 5 cigarettes an hour. That's roughly one every 10 minutes. Well, it takes 5 minutes to smoke one. Now, I admit he did quit probably a year before his diagnosis because he had some other health issues. But when he was diagnosed, in 30 days, it was. And as a family, we were thankful that it wasn't a long, drawn out, because that particular thing can be painful. And so he told the doctor, he said, there's nothing you can do, right? And the doctor said, no, I'm sorry, it's beyond that point. If we had caught it earlier, which kind of ticked me off, because he was forever going to the doctor for something. You know, so it's not like he was in a third world country where early detection is not, you know, available. Anyway, it is what it is. And when the doctor said, I'm sorry, there isn't anything we can do, he said, well, all I ask is that I don't want to suffer. I've made my peace with God many years ago, and I know my mother's there waiting for me, and so I don't have any problem with that part. But if you can ease my suffering here on planet Earth as the lights go out, I'd appreciate it. And his wife, my Aunt Polly, she said they were sitting there. He was laying in his bed, and she was in the chair next to him, and they were holding hands, and they'd been talking, and he looked over at her, and he smiled. He said, I love you. He closed his eyes, and he crossed over. Not everyone gets dealt that hand. Some people, especially people in third world countries, spend years in agonizing pain. Why? Why would a just God do something like that? That's way above my pay grade, brother. I cannot answer that. But I know that he has a plan for every one of us. And all things work together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. I don't have all the answers, but I've heard most of the questions. So, I love you. God loves you. Love yourself. Stop being angry. Light a candle of compassion. You'll feel better. That's our good word for the day. All right. I pulled up silver because we were talking about it, and we don't normally track it. We don't trade it in the live training room. This is a daily chart of silver. We put in a significant low back on December 16th, looks like, give or take. And then we did leg and a retrace and a leg and a retrace and a leg and a retrace and a leg and a retrace, and then a married white male loaded the boat, and we then went leg, retrace, leg, retrace, leg, retrace, leg, retrace, leg, retrace, leg. Married white male almost became single white male. Thank goodness for this, which became this, but then led to this, and now we're back to this. So, I'll keep you posted. In case you want to send him a postcard. So you see how this was resistance? Resistance. Resistance. Finally broke the resistance, and it came back to be support. That is a Trader Vic. It's got other names too, but a guy named Vic wrote a book, and he pointed out this pattern, and out of his modesty, he named it after himself. All right? And then leg, retrace. Remember, what was once resistance became support. The ceiling became the floor. You've heard all those sayings. Leg, retrace, leg, and then we retraced. And we should have put in a higher high. But you see that wick? That was a warning sign that this retracement could become a reversal. And when we double topped right here, the shorts came out of the woodwork, man. Leg, retrace, bottom fell out. Retrace, bang. And then we went from support to resistance to support to resistance. We broke the resistance and resistance. This is a little Trader Vic right here. Support. Support failed to be support. This support held, and right now this resistance is holding. So as we move forward, if price can climb above the current area of resistance that we're tied up in right now, our next area of potentially very strong resistance is going to be right here. Now there will be little battles and skirmishes along the way, but this is a daily chart, and so I'm talking about major support and resistance. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to run through that with you. All right, we got to do this quick. Ooh, look at that. We just took out, I know I don't give you the zones till tomorrow, Thursday, but we just took out the lowest weekly trading zone on the S&P for the week. Yep, true story. Okay, it is what it is. Last night, the alerts went out. I've shown it to you once. I'm going to show it to you again. This time, get your screen grabber ready. If you're logged in on the GoToWebinar, that little thing on top that looks like a camera is. If you snap it, it'll save a GIF or a JPEG or something to your desktop. And you can go back later and write it down. But this is the email that went out last night to all the subscribers. Now, I haven't talked about this a lot lately, but if you go to emini.cfrn.net, at the top of the page is a baseball player. And if you click the More button, or maybe actually it's above the baseball player, it says if you want to go straight to the $1 trial of the concierge trade alerts, click here. Here's what'll happen. You'll pay $1. Okay, that just tells me you're serious. As soon as that dollar, PayPal notifies me right away, but I want you to notify me right away. support@cfrn.net. Hey, check your records. I just paid the $1. I want to get that trial of the trade alerts. The river's flowing, so there's going to be some great trades. I will, as soon as I get that confirmation, I will send you out an email that has 2 training videos in it. I want you to watch them both, maybe a couple of times. I want you to sim trade for a couple days what you learned in those training videos, okay? Then I want you to book a one-on-one mentoring session with me so that I can answer any questions. See, until you get your feet wet, watch those videos, actually do some sim trading, you won't even know what questions to ask. But if you'll watch the videos, do a little sim trading, when we have our mentoring session, you'll have, I had a mentoring session yesterday. This gentleman was very organized. I said, so it says in the comments section that you have some questions for me. And he said, yes, I have exactly 15. I was like, whoa, okay, let's get cracking. And boom, 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 boom. We went right down the list. He says, okay, that's it for now. I'll take what you've given me. I'll work on it. And I said, and you book another session as soon as you're ready. If it's the end of the week, that's okay. First of next week, whenever you're ready, I'm here. He said, okay. But he had done exactly what I'd asked him to do. And he had the good questions ready. See, until you get in there, get your feet wet, roll up your sleeves, take some trades, have some victories, have some stop outs. It's only then that the good questions will rise to the surface, okay? And we can accomplish a lot in that 45-minute period of time. The human mind can only absorb so much at once. That's why I keep the mentoring sessions. I try to keep them to 40, and please try to respect that, guys. 45 minutes, because there's usually somebody waiting in the wings right behind you. So, you can only absorb so much in 45 minutes. Take good notes. Now, if you will remind me, as the second our session starts, hey Dwayne, would you record this session? All I got to do is click a button. It will create a video file that will play on your Windows Media Player. And as soon as it renders, I'll email it to you. Okay? That's a powerful tool to have. You can start to create your own little training library. Okay? And you can go back and reference what I taught you 3 sessions ago when you need it. All right? Okay. It's up to you. If you don't remind me, I'm promising you I will not, because it hasn't become a habit. The other day, I just had a series of incredible mentoring sessions, and because of the people I was mentoring, they had really great questions. And so on each one of them, I said, man, I wish I had recorded this. And they went, man, I wish you had too. I said, next time remind me, and I will. Because, see, I can email you, if the file, depending on the file size, I can either email it to you or I can put it in the cloud. You can go grab it and download it. Okay? All right. So you've had plenty of time. You could have wrote that in Sanskrit by now. On the S&P 500, let's start with the alerts going out at 8:50 p.m. That means that we have to use the 9 o'clock candle. So 12 and 9 is 17. No, that's not right. 12 and 9 is 19. So, no, 8 o'clock is 2100 candle. 12 and 9 is 21. Okay, we need to use the 2100 candle. That's, in other words, it's the candle that started 10 minutes after I sent you the alerts. 2100. All right. Let's not get caught up in the minutia here. Let's get her done. All right. 2100 is the candle right next to that long-legged doji there. Okay. Okay. 2100. All right. We wanted to be buyers at 2384. Let me get a straight line and then that'll work. Straight line. Okay. 2384. All right, buy 2384. That's the game plan. Buy 2384. Okay. Now, it's on those training tapes that you're going to learn where to put your stop, when to walk away, and all the other stuff you need to know. If I didn't make it clear, you go to emini.cfrn.net. And above the baseball player, where it says go straight to the $1 concierge trade alert trial, click that link, because that link does not have an automatic rollover attached to it. What that means is you're going to get the alerts for 5 trading days. Doesn't matter if you sign up on a Wednesday. You'll get Wednesday night, Thursday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, and Wednesday night of next week. You get 5 consecutive trading days. Obviously, no alerts go out on Friday night because there's no markets Saturday morning. Okay? So, from 2384, the first little run up took us to... Where's my pop-up? Oh, there it is. 87 and a quarter. So that's 3.25 times $50 per point per contract. The S&P, it's a beautiful thing. It costs you $50, $500 per contract to trade. But you're only risking, if it's a concierge trade alert, we never risk more than $300. Now in the live training room, we never risk more than 8 ticks. But with the concierge, it's a little different story. And it's all explained in the training videos. We get back below the trigger, and we get a second trade opportunity. This time we go to 88.75. So that's 4.75. Now, write this down. As a concierge trade alert trader, I understand that I will never get out at the swing high or the swing low, because I trail my stop and or I trade to a fixed target. Therefore, I will almost always leave a little on the table, a little something for the next guy, and I am okay with that. Sign it, date it, and wherever you put your letters to God, put it there. All right? Now, flip side of that trade. See, I don't have to worry when I go to bed at night if my predictions are going to come true the next day. Are we going to rally like I said, or are we going to fall like I said? I have no prediction. I just simply know what action I want to take at the important prices in important areas. So that's all I do. I send you the important prices in the important areas, and I tell you what I think a person would do at those prices. That's all. No magic, no voodoo, no crystal balls, no guru. If you get the chance, consider selling 23.75. That was the flip side. Sometimes you get two-sided trading. Sometimes life is just a beautiful thing. Is that 23.75? It is. Sell. $23.75. Okay. Now this first leg down, which hit one of last week's weekly trading zones, put in a low at 66 and a quarter. So from 75 to 66, that would be nice. This is 8.75. 8.75 times $50 per point per contract. Can you dig it? Now, important prices, important areas are almost always tested. Are they not? Well, it sure was up here. What's the high of this candle? 74.75. You gotta be kidding me. Nope. Truth happens. Now, what I mean by that is this candle needed to go to 75.25 in order to create a second trade. Sometimes life happens. 2 more ticks and we would be calculating the value of this trade, which, had we been given this trade, and we were not, the low was 23.57.75, so call it 23.58. 75 minus 58. At 17 S&P 500 E-mini points at $50 a point, $850 per contract. Now remember, S&P, Dow, Russell, and NASDAQ, the margin to trade those is only $500 per contract. So, you know, you got to earn the right to trade 10 contracts. But if you're trading the S&P 500, once you've earned the right to trade 10 contracts, and you don't earn the right just because you have the money. You follow the formula, you follow the plan, you exercise the patience and the discipline, and when you've earned the right to trade 10 contracts, all you need to cover that trade in your account is $5,000. Now you got to have a little extra for drawdowns and stop outs and all that kind of stuff. All right, so throw another $2,500 in there. 1.5 times, that's my formula. So you got $7,500 in the account. You use $5,000 to make this trade. You're not risking well, anytime you put on a trade, you're risking, okay? However, you have a stop that says you're only risking $300 per contract, okay? Now, if you got 10 contracts on, that is a $3,000 risk that you're assuming, all right? And if you get stopped out for the full amount, then your account just went from $7,500 down to $4,500. That's the truth about trading, okay? If, on the other hand, it goes in your favor and it racks up $850 per contract, but you don't get out at the swing low because you trail your stop, let's say you get out up here. Okay, that's 23.62. So let's do that math. 75 minus 62. Is that 13? 75 minus 62, that's 13 times $50 equals. So we're talking $650 per contract, not $850. Okay. If you've earned the right to trade 10 contracts, that's $6,500. But we didn't even get triggered into that trade. I mean, we got triggered into this one, but not this one. Okay? Trust me, when you watch those training videos, your eyes will go boing, because you'll understand so much more than when you're just staring at this chart. So one last time, if you want the trade alert trial, emini.cfrn.net, pay the man the dollar, right above the baseball player, and then email support@cfrn.net. I just paid PayPal $1. This way I get 2 emails, one from PayPal, one from you, and I make sure I get you added to the list before the alerts go out tonight. Because see, if you were, everybody that was on the list last night, they had this trade. Okay? Whatever trades are available tomorrow, as long as you take care of that by 6 p.m. Eastern, you'll be on the list. Now, if you're going to do this, you need to watch the videos first. Don't worry, you got 5 days. You don't have to rush. But I want you to have the numbers tonight. I want you to watch the videos, okay? And as questions come up, write them down. Don't tell yourself, okay, well, I'm going to remember to ask him that when we have our mentoring session later in the week or the first of next week. No, please write it down. I mean, I really liked the way that guy yesterday goes, okay, I got 15 questions. And we moved through them like clockwork. And we actually got done in 45 minutes, and I was able to be on time for my next appointment. It's a beautiful thing. Okay? All right. You get 8 markets, 2 trades per market. That's 16 trade opportunities if no market ever repeats itself. S&P repeated itself twice on the long side, almost twice on the short side. Okay? Now, when you've been at this a while, okay, and you really start to get the hang of it, when that thing doesn't create a new trade, you're going to do a little something like that. And when this candle closes, you're going to get short either on the open of the next candle, or you're going to wait for this low to get broken, and then you're going to get short. Okay? Now, that's discretionary trading. It's part of learning how to trade. You're not going to learn that overnight. That doesn't come naturally. You start out in the live training room where you learn rules-based trading. With rules-based trading, there is never a question about, is this a trade or not? You know, it either fulfills the requirements or it doesn't. There's nothing ambiguous about what happens in the live training room. It's either a trade or it's not. I don't care if you're in Brooklyn or Bangladesh or Buckeye. It either is or it isn't. If it is, it's either long or it's short. There's no in between. And the indicator set, which as a partner you own for life, tells you the entry price to the tick. No more guessing. Does that mean all your trades are going to run to the target? No. But what you're doing is you're putting yourself in the highest possible probability situation for it to go to the target. That Michael and I and all of our years behind these screens, coding and doing all that we do, that's the highest probability that we can hand you. Now, some people feel driven to go put an edge on the edge and, hey, I can't come to your house and sit on your chest or babysit you. You're going to do what you're going to do. I encourage you, if you're in the rules-based room, learn how to make $100 per contract per day in 10 trades or less. That's $100 gross. I know it doesn't sound like much, but if you're trading the S&P and it takes you 10 trades every day to gross $100. In 42 trading days, you will have increased your account balance by $2,000 and you get to add a second contract. See, that's how we grow our trading business. That's how we teach you to grow your trading business. From within, not from without. You open that account, you fund it, and if you have to send another wire to Chicago, we need to talk. Because if you followed the rules, you see, every time, once you go live, and you're not going to go live right away, you've got to pass a 10-day test. Well, I mean, it's your account and your money. You can go live whenever you want. But you've already tried that. Anybody can do that. This time, you want it to be different, right? Okay? Einstein said, definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing while expecting different results. If you want it to be different this time, you're going to have to behave differently this time. If you follow the rules, it will take an awful lot of work to blow up your account. Because the moment you are no longer consistently profitable, our system, our methodology is going to put you back in SIM. Now, some people are too proud to go back to SIM. You know what you call those people? Broke. All right? Sorry. Had to say it. It's a 4-letter word. B-R-O. It's a 5-letter word. If you will, humble yourself. And when it says go back to SIM, realize that it's no walk of shame. It is an intelligent business decision. It's something Warren Buffett would do. Because there's something missing. Something in the setup, something in the interpretations, something, some ball got dropped somewhere. Okay? So, you go back to SIM, you arrange a mentoring session, and then Michael or I either come in, one of the two of us, or both sometimes. We will inspect your charts, we'll inspect your trades, and we'll let you know what you could have done differently, what you should have done differently. And there will be the rare occasion where we say, dude, you did everything right. You just had a bad couple days. I mean, it can happen. So, what do you do then? You spend a couple days in SIM, you regain your confidence, and if you already had worked your way up to 3 contracts, you don't have to go back to 0. Once you've regained your confidence, you step right back out at where you left off. Okay? All right. So you see, with that process, we keep the forward momentum going. This insanity of, oh, you're not a real trader unless you've blown up a couple accounts. I used to say that as a coping technique to hide my shame because of all the accounts I'd blown up. When Michael and I designed what we teach now, we took everything that was wrong with everything we had ever done. We took everything that was wrong in every room we had ever been in, and we made it right. We said, we're going to build something that our mother will be proud of, that even God himself will be proud of. And we stand by that standard to this day. And the day that we fail you on that, I walk away. And I have no plans on failing you. And those of you that have been in sessions with me, you know I joke around. I know I'm corny and I make silly jokes and I sing out of key. But when it comes time to helping you learn how to trade, I'm all business. All right? All right. Got to get this done. Or I'm going to have people screaming, where the heck were you? Okay, this is last week's zone. Look what price did. Just like on the S&P, it ran to it and bounced. Last week's zone, oh, it bounced and then it overshot it. Okay, fair enough. So far on the Dow, it held. So, whatever. We're looking for the 2100 candle. Now let's spread this out a little bit. Everybody doesn't have to squint. I got nothing to prove. My eyes are not what they once were. They're getting better. Every day in every way. God, I used to hate that. I quit saying it. It's just so hokey. There's probably truth in it, but I don't know. It made me a little nauseous. I'll never forget the one time I tried to ohm with my wife and I and two of our friends. He was a massage therapist. She worked for the phone company. We were like the couple's couple, and we did dinner together. We always did everything together, and plus they had a pool. And one night we were sitting around, and I won't go through all of everything that happened that night, but we decided to group meditate, to ohm. And so we were sitting there cross-legged, and my friend could actually do the full lotus. I just, crossed my legs, and we held hands, and we started to group ohm. And my wife and Rick, they were like into it, and I started giggling. And then Patty started giggling. And before you knew it, it was a full-on laugh riot. And Rick and my wife, they started to get aggravated, like, hey, come on, guys, we're trying to be serious here. And we're like, yeah, so are we. We didn't get any meditating done. So, anyway, that's another page of you could have probably done without, but that's yours. Burn it if you want to. It's entirely up to you. All right, we wanted to be buyers at 208.30. What do we got? What do we got? $208.30. Buy 208.30. Okay. All right. So now remember, this candle is 10 minutes after I completed the computations and sent out the email. So unless you were really, on the spot, you might not have caught this first little move, and that's okay, because really the move came here. We'll stop action here, and maybe even here, because the the Dow only pays $5 a point. So the first run up goes to 60, is that right? All right, so that's 30 points. That's respectable in the Dow. You get a 30-point run in the Dow. Cooking with gas. All right. And then price gets back below the trigger. Why? Best I can figure is important prices in important areas are almost always tested. And so this time we fly high up to 64. No? Yeah. So that's 34 points. With practically no risk at all. Then on the flip side, sell 27.95. Let's do it. 27. Okay. Come on now. You know, sometimes you just want a cheeseburger, even though you know they're not good for you. That you're probably going to settle for like a salad or something. Or eggs. Eggs are protein. If you feel the need to eat before you trade in the morning, don't load up on carbs. You'll end up napping. Get you some eggs. You don't have to do all that separating the yolk stuff. Just, I know, high cholesterol, blah, blah, blah. I didn't say eat a dozen. I just, you know, maybe 3 and 2 strips of turkey bacon. You'll be good to go to lunch. Now, it will make you really hungry by lunch. So, be warned. I've always had a problem with eating early in the morning. Now, if I'm on vacation, I wake up starving. But if it's a work day, work week, I wake up, I got 0 appetite. Because my mind is already in that flight or fight syndrome. How does that quote go? Let's see. When a lion wakes up in Africa. Let me see if I can get you that quote.
According to Wikipedia, every day in Africa a gazelle wakes up.
Stand by.
It knows it must run faster than the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning a lion wakes up. It knows that it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death.
Okay, the reason I had to say wait is because the lady was talking in my headphones, reading me the quote. Those who listen to this after the fact on the recording will hear the lady. Those of you live didn't hear the lady. Here's the quote. Every day in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning, a lion wakes up. It knows that it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death. You deserve to have that in the chat box if you've never heard it before. And I got a feeling, since you're the smartest audience in talk radio, send to all. There we go. Mark says, Dwayne, I don't think I was sent the links to how to trade a concierge. You guys train us. Would you mind send them to me? Well, thank you, Karen. That's very kind of you. Mark, did you get that as part of your sign-on bonus? Because it's a separate product. I mean, that might be why you didn't get it. I don't know. Good job, Mark. Oh, my God. Dwayne, thank you for your time the other day. I since haven't crapped out once. And today on my demo account, I did $1,000. Blessings and thanks for the encouragement. Brother, you just made my day. I'm going to send you those rules, whether you... I'm sure if you're even asking about them, you probably did. So let me just really quickly, before I forget, I'm going to send it right now. I have learned in life that things I put off often never get done. When I can take 3 minutes of your time and put a smile on my friend's face. Are you with me? Now, there's some stuff in this email that won't really apply to you because you're already in. Just the 2 YouTube links, that's what you need, okay? You just ignore all the other stuff. Okay. Back to the alerts. Sell 27.95. We put in a low at 6.05. 7.95 minus 6.05. 7.95 minus 6.05. That's 190 points. That's almost $1,000 per contract. 190 points at $5 per point per contract. And of course, nobody gets out at the swing low or the swing high. Why? Well, I've already explained that. Curious if that's a zone this week. No. Gracious, no. I don't even think that was a zone from last week, was it? No, that's a really old zone. That's old. Which brings up another point. The market has a memory. For argument's sake, 20610, I should see how far back that was an actual zone. It had to have been quite some time ago. Got all these scraps of paper everywhere. Alright, apparently I don't have that scrap in front of me. But it was important way back then, and look what happened. It's still important today. Okay, so that's just shy of $1,000 per contract. Soybeans, 2100 hour. Okay, no more chit chat. I gotta get this done. I know I'm the guilty one, not you. 2100. Dag nabbit. Alright. Han soybeans, we fancied being buyers at 9.78. What? All that movement, and you know what? There was obviously a lot of interference in here, and I did not want to put you in jeopardy. Happens. It happens. $5.978. Swing high 9.8050. So that's 2.5 times $50 per point per contract. Okay. And on the sell side, what were we looking for? 9.70? Wait a minute. Oh, I see the problem, Coach. You wanted this 2100. That's funny. Okay, so let's make this vanish. And let's try last night's 2100. And maybe it'll make a little more sense. Yes, it makes much more sense. Doesn't change the fact that it's 2.5 points, but now I realize that it wasn't so far off the money. Sell side was 970, and that didn't happen. Okay. I feel much better. Bonds. Yeah, you know, I got to tell you, that whole business about increasing your fiber intake as you become a person of a certain age, uh, it can make a big difference in your life. Aside from the fact that you feel pounds lighter, uh, it kind of seems to give your body a little wake up call, a little energy or something. I actually got on the Gazelle for 30 minutes the other day because my wife was not going to stop until I did. All right, these are bonds. We wanted to buy 151.14. Everybody that got the email already knows that. And those of you that took a screenshot a couple minutes ago, you know that. How do we know that what you just showed us is what you really sent out? Oh, come on. Number one, live charts can't lie. And there's too many living witnesses in the audience. And I don't have the skullduggery talents of Bill and Hillary Clinton. I can't make an entire audience disappear. If I get it, you know, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. There's no shame in that. It's just business. See, whereas some people struggle with the fact that you get do-overs in the market, engineers, pilots, surgeons, they don't get do-overs. They got to get it right every time. In trading, if you are on the right side of the trade 70% of the time, that's perfection. You're Liberace. Well, hopefully you're not Liberace, but that is a mighty fine jacket you have. Holy smokes, 151.14. All right, let's walk the dog at 152.14. 151.14. At 152. Wait a minute, something's not right. Guys, I can't take credit for this trade. I'm sorry. I'm amazed nobody emailed me. Clearly from my notes, the trade was 152.14. But I sent out 151.14, which was below where the market was. So apparently our bond traders were taking the night off. Probably because we had such a slow day. God, I hate it when that happens. Talk about stealing your thunder. Oh, I guess I'll live with it. Anyway, alright, so we can't chalk this one up for the record books. Whatever that means. The fact that I goofed it will probably go on my permanent record. I'm not sure where they keep that now that I'm out of high school, but they said it would follow me all my life. Buy 153.14. Well, if I hadn't goofed it up, guys, we'd have had $1,000 per contract trade. And at 154.14, it would have become a $2,000 per contract trade. 154.14, that's still quite a ways to go. So, anyway, could have been a gee whiz if I hadn't messed it up. Alright, last night we said to consider buying gold at 1246. If you did, right here is where you hit the $1,000 per contract for the day. Our rule of thumb says when that happens, what do? You take your money, you put the mouse away. Oh, you never have $2,000 days? Why, yes. Yes, we do. But we also know that the rubber band only stretches so far. eventually price is going to revert to the mean. So at about $1,000 in one instrument in one day per contract, you're starting to push the envelope. So should you just get out? No, absolutely not. You should trail your stop and let the market take you out. Oh, but then I won't get $1,000. I might only get 900. Cry me a river. Now, when did the indicators tell you to get out? The indicators told you to get out right there. When on a long trade, when the step line, that's the little black line, gets on the south side of the CFMA1, and long is blue, but you get a red close below that stop line, step line, that candle closed at 12:56. Yeah? Yeah. So that's exactly 10 points. That's exactly $1,000. So, did it run up to 1,400 and change? Yep. And I'd have been trailing my stop. Oh, so close behind that, I'd have probably got taken out here. If not there, absolutely here. But if you wanted to let the indicators tell you when to get out, you still got your gee whiz. Okay? All right. We are moving right along. Okay, we got to do the NASDAQ, the Russell, and crude. Then I'm out of here. No time for long goodbyes. I got to fly like the wind. Okay? All right. Thank you for your understanding. We're way over the limit. Anyway. 2100. Okay, on the NASDAQ, we said to consider selling 5682. 5682. Stop it. $56.82. $56.82. Sell 56.82. All right. The low so far, and we're still falling. 56.82. 56.82 minus 55.94. 88 points. $88 points times $20 per point equals times 20, $1,760 per contract. And that's a so far. 88 points times $20 per point equals $1,760 per contract. If you were running the indicators, you would still probably be in this trade. Nope. If you're playing by the rules, you'd have got taken out right here. And if you're an experienced trader, you would have probably gotten back in right about here. But let's say you didn't. Let's say you got out when the indicators told you to get out. Okay, this candle closed at 56.45. So 82 minus 45. 82 minus 45. That's 37 times 20. 37 times. Stop at 37 times 20. $740 per contract available. Did you leave a lot on the table? Yes, you did. When you think you've got a runner on your hands, when you think you've got a trend down day, which you will learn over time. Mentoring session yesterday, a guy says, you know, as I sit here and listen to you, I realize that you actually read the chart. And I said, yes, like a newspaper, like a mystery novel, and every day the outcome's different. It's like having this really great book that you get to read every day, and it's got a different ending every day. Huh, how awesome is that? Yeah. Okay, look at this thing. It's still falling, man. This is going to be a $2,000 move. It really is. Now, when you think you have a trend down day, you think you have a runner, you can just trail behind the BBC. And when it starts giving you signs of turning, like those long tails and small bodies, then you can just move your stop way down there and let it take you out. Always let the market take you out, because like 5 minutes ago, if I'd have said, okay, just go ahead and exit, if instead of just exiting, you had just drug your stop up really, really, really close, you'd have picked up another $100, $200 by now. See the difference? I hope so. Okay. Next, that was the NQ, NASDAQ. Okay, Russell and crude, and we're done, my friends. Okay. Wow, look at that gap lower open on the Russell. That's unusual. We are at the end of earnings season. Now the Russell 2000. Oh. She was going to have that lady call me back, or did she give me her number? Oh, snap. I am so disorganized. I'm not a secretary. I had a secretary for years who did all my stuff, and I just mostly had to like show up and look good. I mean, come on, it's not easy being Dwayne Reeves, but mostly I had to show up and look good, and she took care of everything. I'll never forget when I sold that company and no longer had assistants and an army of men and women. I could say, go here and go there, and they would go here and go there. And I had to go to the bank and fill out my own deposit slip. I was fumbling around like, that was embarrassing. And I think I almost had a little tear in my eye. And the lady said, sir, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. I go, I used to have a secretary that did all this, and well, I sold my company, and now I have to do it myself. And she says, oh, you'll be okay. Here, let me help you. She was a really nice lady. So, God bless nice ladies like that. Now, I also found out after the fact that my secretary was costing me an absolute fortune. She was, well, let's just say that sometimes she did not do what I told her to do when I told her to do it, and because an incredibly financially successful company was suddenly hemorrhaging, I thought it was just time to, cut bait, like with a trade, you know. Trade's been going great for 13 years. All of a sudden, it's like the premise of the trade's not there anymore. All right. Well, God's calling me to something else. Now, after the fact, I do a little forensic work, and I find out that there was more to the story. I had relegated too much responsibility to one individual without instituting a proper set of checks and balances. Now, if I had had my administrative assistant back-checking my secretary's work, this would have all come to light very quickly, and I might still be running that company today instead of doing this, so I'm just going to guess God's got a plan. And no, I didn't prosecute her. 72 minus 54. 72 minus 54, but let's say we don't do lunch. So we got 18 points. Points times $50 per point equals 900 bucks. Taking a stab in the dark here. Times $50, I mean. Yep, 900 bucks. $900 per contract available. Okay. All right. One more market, guys, and then we wrap it up. So if you got a final question, please get it in the chat box, because I got to skedaddle. Now, we did get crude oil inventories today. That's what this big green candle's all about. So, we wanted to buy 48 and a quarter. Okay, we were able to do that in the early going last night. Okay. 48. $25. Okay. Buy 48.25. Buy 48.25. And this initial swing high was 49.16. Okay. That's going to be just shy of $1,000. 49.16 minus 48.25. 91 ticks. So the formula is 91 times $10 per tick equals $910 per contract available. Now, bear in mind that I'm using this number this high, not this high. Why? Because this high is a result of the inventory numbers, and we train our partners to go flat before inventory numbers, before any high impact economic event. And crude inventories are absolutely a high impact event. Now, I've got exactly 4 minutes to get to my mentoring session. So what an incredible day. We'll bask in the glory of it all tomorrow as we have more time. But for now, I got to run. It is normally at this time that I would play the outro file. Okay? But as you know, there's a ghost in the machine. I'm going to try playing the file just to see what happens. Let's just see if it plays. I don't think it's going to play. And I honestly don't know what the problem is. Yep. Boo Boo got a problem. Alright, so let me just remind you, there is no greater investment than to see a human life changed. Trading is risky. You can lose all of your money. Always check with a licensed investment professional before making any investment decision. Listening to this radio program and use of all products and services of CFRN signifies that you have read and understand all required CFTC disclosures and CFRN disclaimers located at CFRN.net. It has been my pleasure to be your host. I'll see you again tomorrow at the bell. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And again, I'll see you at the bell.